Hello, and welcome to Entangled, the podcast where we explore the science of consciousness, the true nature of reality, and what it means to be a spiritual being having a human experience. Today I'm joined by my friend Ricky Butterfass. Ricky is an aerospace engineer and a member of the Orion Project, the Disclosure Project, and the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, CSETI. In this conversation, Ricky describes his experience growing up in the 1940s and 50s and how the flying saucer phenomenon was commonplace during his childhood, often making front-page news. Ricky discusses technical aspects of the extraterrestrial phenomenon, including harmonic resonance, phase shifts, and morphogenic fields. We clarify misconceptions around abductions and the staging of hoaxed ET events to create a fear-based control drama. Ricky describes his first close encounter as a child and the strange phenomena that occurred when extraterrestrial beings visited his neighborhood. We next discuss the different levels of beingness achieved by civilizations as they evolve in consciousness from level 0 humans to level 10 celestial. We describe divine avatars who have manifested on Earth to provide spiritual teachings throughout history. Ricky explains how he decided to dedicate his career to building spaceships and the exotic technologies used by extraterrestrials. We then discuss how black operations within unacknowledged special access programs have been reverse engineering these technologies for decades. We discuss the history of the organization and control of these projects, known under various names including Majestic-12, and their ties to the global petrodollar economic system. We then consider the nature of black holes as eternally collapsing objects. Ricky describes a close encounter of the fifth kind experience in which divine knowledge was shared, namely that infinity equals one. Ricky describes his decades-long friendship with Dr. Stephen Greer, the founder of CSETI, who also developed the CE5 protocols. Ricky describes his experience as a young man in his 20s of being onboarded an ET craft in Washington, D.C. He discusses synchronistic events several years later when an old friend confirmed she had witnessed him being beamed onto that craft. We end the conversation with an optimistic outlook for humanity and how we can create a civilization in resonance with our star friends. This outro is titled Extraterrestrials in the New Cosmology. Outros are available for this and all episodes at entangledpodcast.substack.com. The closing song by my friend Skits the PLK is titled UFO, Unidentified Feelings of Oneness. Music from the show is available on the Spotify playlist Entangled the Vibes. If you like the show, please drop a 5-star review and subscribe on Substack, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please enjoy the episode. Mr. Ricky Butterfass, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, Jordan. How are you? Thanks for letting me come on the air with you and share some experiences.
Absolutely. I'm glad you came back. We recorded this a couple months ago. Long story short, I screwed up on the audio settings and we had to re-record, and Ricky was kind enough to come back. But I think it's, kind of one of those synchronistic things where now I know your story better. And I think this conversation is going to end up being that much better for it.
Well, wonderful. So we can get started if you want to ask a question, or I can just sort of free associate.
Yeah, why don't we start with, so we got connected through the CE5 community, right. And so would love to talk about that. And for folks who may be unaware, CE5 stands for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which, Ricky, you are better than almost anyone to explain what that is exactly, maybe besides Dr. Greer. But before we get into that, maybe we could talk about the extraterrestrial phenomenon for you in particular, and, kind of two of those life-changing experiences in your growing up story that we talked about last time.
Well, it's a continuing life-altering, life-changing experience that's been going on since I was, 10 years old. But my interest was sort of a connection before that, even, from elementary school all the way up to the present day through the college. And after college, then doing independent study on the three-stage fusion electromagnetic ramjet interstellar drive unit, the design theory I got. And I gave you copies, so you can do whatever you want with that.
Yeah, I'll share it with the show notes.
Yeah, it's part of the public domain, and it was published in 91 at Colorado State University Press when I gave an international presentation at the International Association for New Science, and with Dr. Brian O'Leary, who was one of the founders. He's Apollo Mars astronaut, and then that's where I met Dr. Greer in 91. But to dissolve back to when I was younger in elementary school, I just didn't feel that I kind of fit in with all the other kids, you know. I felt a little different. I used to get beat up on the way home from school when I was a kid by some of the, I don't know, the upper class. And you know, I was third grade and the sixth grade kid would beat me up. I don't know what it was about, but that's years ago, I forget. But anyway, we moved from First Avenue and Federal, basically, here in Denver. And then we moved up north to 72nd off of Pago Street. And that's the old family house that they bought. I still live there. So when I was growing up, I didn't really fit in. But in those days, when the flying saucers, they called them flying saucers, not really UFOs. And later on, it became UFOs. Mm-hmm. But in those days, they call it a flying saucer. And I guess it was, what was the guy's name? Arnold, was it? The pilot that was flying, and he saw these three craft that was skipping across the air, you know. He said, kind of like skimming saucers off a lake blocks. And they're skimming off like that. So the press came up with the label flying saucer.
When would that have been roughly?
Oh, about so Roswell happened 1947. I was born in 1947. Old guy now. That was 76 years ago.
Wow.
And now, so they used to they'd see them all over the place. The military would see them. During World War II, they would see them. And they call them foo fighters. And some of them would even be able to fly right through the aircraft in air. I mean, they would be, and these orbs would just come in and just move down the center of the aircraft and out the back end.
Wow.
That's the technology that these craft had. What they do is they actually do a molecular phase shift and be able to do that. So they're really kind of out of sync.
And are they almost like phasing in and out of this dimension when they do that?
Where they're in a harmonic sideband of the local space-time.
Wow.
So think of it that way in radio or radar technology.
When you say harmonic, so it's almost like it has to do with the frequency they're vibrating at?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's phase. So it's all in everything in the universe can be related in quantum scalar terms. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then do is the next octave.
Right.
So everything is related and entangled together in quantum scalar terms throughout the whole universe. And its state of being on the molecular atomic level, and then state of being within consciousness on that quantum molecular level, atomic level. Back down, you know, inside to the bosons and the electrons, you know, all of that on the atomic level. So it's a matter of scalar terms that you go state of beingness within consciousness. So we're resonating, say, at here, and then you go up, and so it goes up, right? So think of it on the atomic level around the nucleus. You go out to the inner shell and outer shell, so it's progressive.
Got it. That makes sense. What's it called? It's the discontinuity or the acausal gap. That's one of the weird quantum mechanics things that they discovered, right, at the subatomic level. And you're saying basically kind of you see that same phase shift that these crafts are able to do.
Right. And it all has to do with being able to resonate and come in together in phase.
Wow.
So if you're out of phase, and you come up. So
when you say in phase versus out of phase, would in phase mean like you're visible in our three-dimensional reality? Is that kind of the way to think about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's our state of beingness within the gravity well of the Earth. So the Earth is warping space and time here around the sun's warping space and time within the Milky Way galaxy.
Is that because of gravity?
Yeah, it's a gravity well. So that's where materialization happens on the molecular atomic level. And then it just condenses and forms into a state of beingness. So it all has to do with resonant fields. So think of it as a magnetic field that is oscillating at a certain frequency, right? So when it changes frequency, it can be expand or contract.
Yeah.
So it all has to do with quantum fields.
It's crazy.
And harmonics of that. And so magnetically speaking, if you have two magnets and you try to put the two south poles together, what happens?
They repel.
They repel. Same thing with us and the earth and everything, that our morphogenic field, our harmonic resonant field, is not, people say, vibration, which is really kind of elementary. It's really a basic idea and concept, but we're more than just a frequency, a vibration. We're a multitude of oscillation frequencies. So think of it as, I call it your concerto of beingness. That's orchestrated as what we are. And then we can add or subtract and expand from that. And then so that's what our resonant field state of beingness is within consciousness. Not only consciousness, but it goes into the molecular level. So it's consciousness that maintains the organic component of what we are, molecularly and spiritually. Comes together, and then it manifests us. And that we resonate at these certain field frequencies, right? So when we come in contact with people and we meet people who we can phase into, and we have a harmonic field interplay relationship, okay? So you can be out of phase, but if you intend to become in phase and be able to, then your fields kind of not coincide, but they come together in resonance. And in radio terms, it would be kind of, well, you have resonant field and you have a waveguide that comes together. And there was like a bridge in between that you can come together and harmonize on. So you don't have that repulsion effect. So if two waves come together and they crash, they bounce off each other. But if you can get a resonant field bridge harmonic there, that I'm spacing out the name of it. I'll come back to it later. Anyway, so that's what happens. So our state of beingness within consciousness, when we meet these people, so Earth is resonating at level 1, level 0. Type 0 civilization. So we're at a level 0. ETs are at a level 1 because they travel interstellarly, transdimensionally. So it's an ability, technically, with interface with consciousness, be able to control that.
So when folks have abduction experiences, do you think they're in that almost like bridge state between those two versions of reality, right? The ones that the extraterrestrials occupy and the ones we occupy on Earth?
Okay. First of all, extraterrestrials do not do abductions. All the abductions that are happening are from these unacknowledged special access projects that have reverse engineered technology from ET craft that they've shot down. And so they reverse engineered that. So they're staging all these abduction scenarios. It's a control drama. The way the masses are controlled is by a fear-based control drama that keeps us separate. And the separation has to do with duality and consciousness.
So I totally agree with you, and I think we should talk about that more.
But we'll get back to it.
Well, and maybe abduction isn't the right word, but you get what I'm getting at with the question.
The correct word with extraterrestrials is called a close encounter.
Would that be of the fourth kind?
Of the fifth kind, level 4, category 4. So the abduction means taken against your will.
Right.
But they don't do that. Because once you express the fear, they feel your fear, right? And it's a repulsion. So what they'll do is they'll back off. If they're invasive and come in and snatch you, abduct you, kidnap you, that's a human.
Right.
Extraterrestrials will meet you halfway. Right?
So in that CE5 experience, what do you think's happening there dimensionally?
Well, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. So when I was younger, I didn't really fit in, as I was explaining before we got off on this tangent, which will kind of come back and bring it all together. And so I didn't feel like I really could resonate and identify with the kids I was playing with. I felt separated from them. And so I kind of retreated. I became introverted. And I started reading a lot of science fiction books, and got into that. Andre Norton and a few others. I could go on and on. And then, like I said before, when the flying saucers would fly over the sky, it made headline news. And it was, in those days, newspapers were pretty much the standard form of getting your news from the journalists at the newspapers, the Fourth Estate, freedom of the press. And these journalists were going down for the facts, not the political spin jargon and entertainment that the news media outlets have gotten to. And they've gotten into our two camps, our side and their side, which interplays off each other. And so that's a duality split. And I'll go back into it in a little bit. But right now, I want to go back to what we're talking about when I was a child. That, my dad would have the Denver Post, and on the front page of the Post would be an artist's conception of a flying saucer, or they take a photograph of a craft, and there'd be front page news, not something buried on page 14.
Yeah, right.
This made front page news. And all the media was talking about it, and nobody knew what they were, and the military said, well, they're not ours. Well, whose are they? And they found out where they're coming from, but it's been a big cover up. And so they put the cover up spin on it for special interests and get people to say, well, it could be this, it could be that. Right. So you get into this whole categorization flip flop. Yeah. And it's a duality paradigm. Think of it like a dog chasing his tail. So anyway, so I thought, wow, that was cool. And when I was a kid, Denver was like a one-cow town, And now it's a big city, but in those days, Stapleton Airport, and now it's DIA, but then it was Stapleton. And then there was Laurie Air Force Base, and Buckley Field, those were all military bases. And Laurie's no longer there. They used to have a bombing test range, and all that out of Laurie. But that's all gone now. The only thing that's left off of that complex is Fitzsimmons VA Hospital. And so in those days, it was the Army Air Corps. And then they changed it to the Air Force. So that became a separate branch from the Army. But anyway, so when an airplane would take off and fly over the house, I'd hear it. And I'd run outside and I'd watch it fly over. And I said, oh, man, that's so cool. One day I'm going to be inside one of those. I'm going to fly one of those things. And so I just thought it was really great. And then the UFO stories, the flying saucer stories come out. So I would go and I'd read up about all of it. And then people would speculate and make comic strips and all this stuff, science fiction, So science fiction got to be a way that people talked about it. Yeah. Because in those days, they said, well, they can't get here from there because you can't go faster than the speed of light. And it would take forever, because it would take just 4.5 years to get here from Alpha Centauri, the closest star, going the speed of light. But you talk about something that's 1,000 light years away, you couldn't make it in one lifespan. Yeah. So it was all pragmatic to our lifespan.
And that's still the mainstream science argument today, right? Pretty much.
It's like you can't go faster than the speed of light, but space can go faster than the speed of light. Yeah. So you can go here and it's space is going by you, it's not you. So it's a different vision. Anyway, to get to it, I thought, wow, space guys, maybe I kind of identified with them more than I could with humanity at the time, So, oh man, I'd like to know these guys, I'd like to meet them and know what they're doing. So that's where I kind of grew up. Yeah. And then I was open to that communication. I intended to know them. I wanted to meet them. So at 10 years old, I was sleeping in bed at the house I live in now. My dad had just bought it, 1958. Bought it, I think it was April. And then Dad planted the lawn. And in June, I was sleeping in bed. And then one night, all of a sudden I woke up. I can't recall if there were sirens going on or not. And I looked up at the window over the headboard of my bed, and I saw what looked like butterflies on the curtains, you know. And Mom had a shade, a pull-down shade, and then some, I don't know, different curtains over that. So I got up and stuck my head, pulled the shade out, and stuck my head through the shade, standing on the bed and looking out the window, because I was wanting to know where these butterflies were coming from, these lights. So I thought they were on the curtains. They weren't on the curtains, and they were behind the shade. These little, look like white lights, like butterflies, but they weren't butterflies. They were just these little white lights. And so I said, well, they must be on the other side of the shade. And I pulled back the shade, and I stuck my head out, and all of a sudden I could see these discs flying over Denver, man. There was a lot of them. And all these searchlights are going back and forth, trying to lock onto them and everything. Because this was in, we had fought World War II at the end of 1945. This was in 58. They just ceased fire in Korea. It was in 51, 52. And so it was like, they were still they still are. The United States is armed camp, just military bases everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought that was pretty awesome, and I was watching these things fly across the sky. And then pretty soon, the door to my bedroom was open, and a hall light came on, and I turned, and I saw my dad walking down the hallway in his t-shirt and boxer shorts. He just got out of bed. My mom was in a nightgown, and they were it was like we were called to come out of the house. And my little sister had her pajamas on. I had mine on. And I said, wait for me. And I went out behind him and walked out the door, went down on the porch, down a couple steps, and took a right. And I said, Daddy, you're walking on the grass. You told us not to walk on the grass. You just planted the grass.
Wow.
And so I went up and grabbed his hand, but he didn't show any recognition at all. And I looked up and his eyes were open, but he was like in a hypnotic state, like sleepwalking. And my mom and my sister, when that happened, I was just, I think I turned 10, I was just 10, maybe 10 and a half. And I came up to, my dad was 6 feet tall, and I was about 5 feet tall, so I just came up to his chest high. And so I was pretty, this was a strange situation. I wasn't afraid. And then I heard this voice saying to me, well, don't be afraid. It's okay. Don't be afraid. And I turned, and here this guy I was 5 feet tall, so I just came up to like his hip, So he was at least 3 or 4 feet taller.
Wow.
So he had to be, I'd say 9 or 10 feet tall.
What did he look like?
He looked human, but only he was a giant.
Yeah, just different proportions, or same proportions bigger. Yeah.
But what I found, so he's a human looking, although there are extraterrestrials that don't look like us. But since I think that the vanguard, the ones that we meet, the first encounters look very human.
Interesting.
And that way it reduces the fear factor response within us, because we react to fear in two ways: either run away or stay and fight. So it's flight or fight,
Yeah.
So if you have that encounter, so you're more apt to react to difference, head for the heels.
Yeah.
Jump in your car, peel off, and drive off the cliff because you're freaked out.
Yeah.
Or you sit there and start fighting them. Bring out your AR-15 and start loading a clip. But in those days, the technology we had in targeting these craft weren't scalar weapons like they have today. So they still could bring them down with the scalar weapon that they had that was top secret. It was basically a electromagnetic pulse system that would interfere with the navigation and the field of the craft.
Do you think that's what's now in Antarctica?
Oh, well, they got them all over the place.
Yeah. So that's just basically an early version of what we have now.
Roswell, in 47, was a targeted event and brought down from, they called it a special radar. And so that interfered with their propulsion and navigation system. And there were 3 craft that crashed into each other. They recovered 2, only talked about 1, but they recovered 2, and then a third one they didn't find it till I think it was a year later, 1948, 49. And so anyway, so
you were telling the story of your childhood experience.
Right. So this guy was, really tall, and I turned and I saw him. I looked up at him, and he kind of Caucasian looking, but only he was huge.
Yeah.
And he was dressed like a hoplite the Greeks.
Okay.
Kind of wore, had kind of like a tunic,
Uh-huh.
and a kilt kind of thing, and he had gold embroidery. It was
Interesting. White and gold.
Yeah.
Was he like muscular?
Oh yeah. Definitely physiomorph.
What does that mean?
Buff.
Huh.
Really built, strong. So physiomorph is, so you get ectomorph, mesomorph, and physiomorph. That's the categories within structure and physical structure. So he was a physiomorph. And he was standing next to me, and all of a sudden, I looked down the street, and he sort of pushed me off to towards the street. And I looked, and I saw everybody in the neighborhood were standing out in their front yard in their underwear, in their night clothes, whatever they were wearing. The whole neighborhood, the whole block, everybody was outside. And I looked down the street, and 2 more of these really tall guys were walking down the street, down the sidewalk, basically. And in between them was a guy my size, short, and he was the leader of the group. And so he was wearing kind of like a long robe kind of thing, went to his feet, and he had long, kind of like dark hair.
Yeah.
These other guys were light colored hair.
But they were all humanoid looking?
Yeah, human. So I wasn't freaked out at looking at them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd already read books, when I was a kid about science fiction and what these writers would imagine people from other worlds look like, So I was open to that. That wouldn't make me afraid, because I'd really kind of identify with that. And so they came up to my house, and I saw the 2 taller ones holding something with a pistol grip on it, and kind of like a lens type of thing. And of course, I read comic books. Must be a ray gun. But actually, I think it was more or less what they're using, a flashlight, and so they could see. And also, probably what they were using to, put up a field in consciousness around people.
Wow.
To make them in that hypnotic state. And if you weren't resonating at a certain frequency, that would be able to transcend that, to be able to mesh into it, to phase into it.
So
you wouldn't see them.
That's crazy. So do you think that they're able to, they're almost putting people in a morphogenic field so they don't see them? Is that kind of?
It's all consciousness.
Okay.
you gotta remember, but that these, just to get here, you gotta be at a level 1 state of beingness, technologically wise, but also in consciousness. So with Dr. Greer, I've encountered level 10, which we would call celestial.
Wow.
That can add and drop a body at will. And they're actually a civilization on the level that we would call the angelic.
Wow. And do the different levels reflect like a vibrational frequency you've achieved almost?
Well, it's in history, like Jesus and Buddha and Krishna, Zarathustra, and Moses.
Right.
All of those ones that would be considered avatars, or the Vedics we call them avatars, Vedic avatars. They included Brahma,
right?
And the rest of them. So they are a conscious being that they're a race of beings, and there are different. So they are on, probably consciousnessly wise, if you can turn the water into wine and feed the multitudes with a few fishes and a couple loaves of bread, you can manifest things.
Yeah, right.
So that's at a level, at causal level, which was in consciousness and spiritualness. So there's also levels within spirituality, from the first astral, second, third, fourth astral, fifth astral would be at cause. So you're cause and effect. You can manifest things through consciousness.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that's what these avatars did, including Jesus,
right?
And, all the rest of them. I mean, they're part of our historical record,
right?
That goes back 6,000 years. Anything older than 6,000 years has pretty much been taken away because it didn't meet their scriptures,
right?
So it was either burnt or
it's under the Vatican, hidden away,
library or someplace,
or in some acknowledged special access program underground. Who
might
knows?
Be in that big vault in Mecca.
Yeah,
what's in there? Maybe the capstone from the Great Pyramid.
Maybe it's even under the Denver airport. Who knows?
No, it's not there. But so, it's our cultures have been there. So so it's not an individual state of being.
It's when your civilization gets to that.
Yeah. So that's where their culture is at.
Yeah.
The whole culture resonates at that frequency.
And this is something that really, I mean, when I first saw Dr. Greer's film, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, like that completely changed my life in so many ways. And I watched it a number of times now. And one of the most fascinating concepts he gets into is this idea of super radiance or super fluidity, where, if you have a certain number of individuals who reach, call it level 1, then collectively you hit that breaking point almost in morphic resonance where your entire civilization becomes in that state of consciousness. Am I getting that roughly correct?
Yeah, it's right. So if we can raise ourselves up consciously to be able to resonate and phase into level 1 consciousness, then through them, they're like a go-between. So that it's a field bridge, or I'm trying to recall I'm spacing out the name that they use.
That radio term you're trying to think of earlier?
Yeah. It's like a wave guide frequency, or that comes in. So it's a go-between. It's a step between levels. It's a harmonic field interface, right? So you can have your ancestors, your family members on the other side that are in that next harmonic field up in spirit form. Like your grandfather or your parents and it goes on. So, or you can call them your guardian angels or your spirit guides that are with you. So it's a matter of being able to interface with them as well by intent and focus in on, and you ask for them to come in.
Yeah.
So they could come in and they're a wave guide in between. It comes in.
Well, let's come back to round out the story of your first encounter when you were a child, and you were talking about how the whole town was out on their lawn, in this trance state.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so I know it was my neighborhood for sure, but I don't know if it was all the neighborhoods in the city. It could have been. But because I was there and I wasn't in that hypnotic state like all the rest of them, I was a standout, right? So when the two came up with the little guy in the middle, the little guy had something in his hand, and it was about the size of my cell phone. Maybe it was back then, who knows? But at the time, I didn't know what it was.
You never seen something like that?
So he had something in his hand, and he was playing with it. And so the big tall guy kind of pushed me a little bit forward and to the smaller guy. And he said, we already know all about him. And so the little guy said, okay, they can go back into their houses now. We're done. And so everybody, just including me, just walked into the house and got in bed, went to sleep. And then the next morning I woke up and I said, Mommy, where are you? She says, I'm out here in the kitchen, Ricky. And I said, oh, and I got out of bed and ran out there. I said, where's Daddy? Well, he's at work. I said, where's Rhonda? That's my sister. And she says, oh, she's still asleep. I said, what did the spaceman want last night? Because we always called him the spaceman. Spaceman? Yeah. She says, oh, honey, there weren't any spacemen here last night. It was just a dream. You were just dreaming. I said, oh. So then I forgot. I wrote the whole thing off as a dream, But if you're in that state of beingness, it was a lucid dream, that state. So that's when it gets into, is it real or is it Memorex? Is it a part of your subconscious that making up all these images with thought. So it's just imagination. And unless you have physical encounter that is witnessed with you. And when that happens, you have confirmation, witness confirmation. And then if you document with photographs and audio and video recordings, then it becomes evidential.
Yeah.
Then it's reality.
Yeah.
So it's not your imagination. So that's the difference, So I didn't think much of it. I just, all of a sudden, I just really got, this was so cool. I kind of remembered this experience, but I had this drive to be able to fly an airplane, find out how they work. And so I decided right then and there, I wanted to do that. And then I decided I was going to design a flying saucer when I was in, 8th grade, 9th grade or something like that. And then into high school, I started reading up on it. And I looked at the Cheversky's ionic lifting platforms that they build. That you can make things float in the air by ionic field propulsion. Nobody really knows that, but yeah, they're called ion lifters. They've been around for a long time. So yeah, we've had that technology that we were able to figure it out scientifically. So we built from reverse engineers. What we call alien reproduction vehicles. So that's what they call them. Some of the pilots call them flux liners because they are in a magnetic field flux, and that's what changes a part of the propulsion system. And that's where these staged events, these hoaxed events that are going on from the alien reproduction vehicles, that the whole abduction scenario comes in. So what they do, and people have a real close encounter of the fourth kind or third kind, close encounter of third kind, even first and second kind. Did I go over the terminology?
We didn't. If you want to do that, that'd be great.
Close encounter. The first kind is when you see a craft fly overhead, say within 500 feet of you, fly. That's the first kind. Second kind is when it lands and you see it within 500 feet and there's trace evidence that it's landed, but they don't have to put down the tripods and land and make impressions in the ground, although they've got that evidence. So that's close encounter of a second kind. Dr. J. Allen Harmonic is the one that came up with this terminology. So then you have close encounter of a third kind, which is where the craft lands and the extraterrestrials come out and you have a face-to-face meeting, and usually with communication, some sort of communication, whether it's just waving hello or, it's like the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that's what that's about. And then close encounter of the fourth kind is where they actually take you on board the craft. And what that's done is because the UFO subculture, along with the media, have just all glomerated together.
Right.
And they call that an abduction, where it's not.
Yeah.
It's not an abduction. So you have that onboard experience because it was your intent to have it.
Yeah.
And the other one is where it's just done invasively against your will.
Yeah.
And that's what humans do.
Yeah.
In the alien reproduction vehicles. The black ops guys that are hoaxing the stage.
Let's definitely talk about that. We'll just wrap out with Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind too.
Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind, like our movie, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Contact Has Begun. That's, if you got Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free right now. Unacknowledged, it goes into the technology that they've been reverse engineering. That's also on Amazon Prime. Yeah. So if you've got Prime, you can watch it for free now. And then our third movie is called The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. Yeah. And that just premiered last June 2023 when that came out. And premiered now.
And Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, that came out, I think, 2020? Something like that?
I think it was, 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it came out. Because when it came out, that's COVID was happening.
Right, exactly. So that's when I saw it.
All the theaters were shut down, so we couldn't premiere it in LA.
Yeah.
So we premiered it in Scottsdale, Arizona, because they let us.
Yeah.
go down there and do it. But it was, so now you can see it on Amazon for free. And there might be other platforms. Yeah. So if you go to disclosure.com, that's SIRIUS disclosure.com, they'll take you to Dr. Greer's site. And
so what does Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind mean?
Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is human-initiated contact. Mm-hmm. So all the other categories that were there were just, people just happened to, these things just sort of happened. It was a random event that they had sort of walked into it,
Yeah.
Like you walk around the corner and there the thing is, right? But Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is that you initiate, you invite them to have the encounter. And there's two limiting factors to having that type of human-initiated contact. First of all, you got to have the intent. So why do you want to have that intent? Do you want to be like going to the football game or a baseball game and sit there as a spectator and watch them do loops and rolls and fly around and flash, do all that cool stuff, Mm-hmm. If that's what you want, then chances are they're not going to travel through thousands of light years of time and space to be here just for your entertainment.
Yeah.
Would you do it? If you were them?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Unless you're on a mission and want to know what their reaction would be. So if your intent is on a higher state of beingness within consciousness, it's right. So our intent is to interact with the extraterrestrials and form a peaceful diplomatic relationship, a harmonic relationship and interaction.
Yeah.
And so that's our intent. The second limiting factor is what we call the fear factor. Mm. So, and we react to fear in two ways. Like I said before, either stand and fight or bug out, flight, run away from it. So if you have that duality that's been part of this control drama I'm talking about, that you've read about, books and stuff, about the abductions that are so scary in the movies that come out, like Independence Day and all those ones that they put out. And it's a psychodrama. And psychodramas always have drama. Mm-hmm. And you have fear within it. So a fear-based control drama is what's been established to keep people away from really having these encounters. And why? Why would they do that? Maintain the status quo. Because these interstellar craft have a propulsion system that's not using Exxon Jet A fuel to get here. They're not a combustion. They're not Elon Musk's Starship. Far from it. I mean, that's just a pop bottle rocket, a gigantic pop bottle rocket. That's what that thing is. And we're not going to go to Mars in that. I mean, he has expectations to get there. But we've already got these reverse engineered anti-gravity craft.
Right.
Can go to the moon in about 3 hours, which is a 3-day trip, and just a rocket. The Apollo took 3 days there to get there and back. Mm-hmm. And they can get there in 3 hours, maybe shorter.
It's crazy.
And then get to Mars in under a week. And Elon Musk is doing a mission that's going to take over a year to get there.
Wow. Do you think we have people on Mars right now?
We're limited by our state of beingness within consciousness. Uh-huh. So if we have a duality state of mindset, which is that it's, in a duality, I would say, is it good or bad? Is it the good guys or the bad guys? Are we the good? Are we afraid? Are we,
Right.
So it's approach avoidance. So there's different levels in consciousness in psychology that would talk about that. And so the fear-based control drama around this whole thing gets people afraid of it.
Right.
Because are these going to be what's in the unscientific, the UFO community, the UFO subculture that's highly involved with speculation.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And people that are the so-called UFO researchers, a lot of them haven't even had contact.
Uh-huh.
And I was used to be with MUFON in the early days in Hawaii. But they were so afraid MUFON would be there and we'd meet. We had faculty in MUFON, Hawaii from the University of Hawaii. And we'd have our monthly meeting in a faculty member's, one of his meeting halls, meeting rooms that he could go into. And we'd be in there. We'd be sitting at a table talking. And then we would review all these cases that come in. And then this was back in the late 80s, 80s, 70s, maybe 89, 90, 1990, 91. So this was like in 1991 and I had met Dr. Greer at the International Association for New Science Forum at Colorado State University, where I give my international presentation of my 3-stage fusion electromagnetic ramjet interstellar drive unit, which was my interpretation theory on how you could build a flying saucer using available technology today and extrapolating and theorizing above that, how you could work it, how you could do it. So when I was young, I had this experience. And then when I got into high school, I wanted to design one. And I came up with one of these electromagnetic lifters, and I was going to do one. And so I got my senior class award in high school for the research I was doing in those days. I got a scholarship to electronics school, but, it was nothing, and they didn't really have any type of study program within this field. And so I just declined. I went to Metro State College, now Metro State University of Denver, downtown Denver, and I joined their aerospace department. Mm-hmm. So I have a degree in aerospace science and technology. And so I studied all kind of aircraft. I got my pilot's license when I was 18. I flew aircraft. I got recruited by the Navy. Was in a Naval Reserve in pilot training during the Vietnam War. But it was starting to end down in 72 or 71.
Yeah. So one question I wanted to ask you, we've talked a few times in this conversation about the existence of reverse engineered craft and the engagement of certain criminal elements in abducting humans against their will to make it look like extraterrestrial encounters as part of this broader psychological warfare plan. So I would love if you would, give some folks who may be less familiar with the whole history of the phenomenon and the cover-up, kind of some background on who you think these individuals are, what this group is that has developed to cover up the experience.
Well, it happened under President Truman's watch. And when they formed the CIA, in all these intelligence gathering places, they call them spooks, you know what I mean? And so what happened is that they had the Roswell crash. And then the Roswell crash, when they recovered that ET craft, that was front page news. Mm-hmm. Like I told you, it made front page news. 1947, they got one. We got a flying saucer. They recovered it. The Army Air Corps, the Air Force got it. And then later on, the guys up on top said, "Oh, this could be a whole opportunity to design a new weapon system, right?" And we'd had the hydrogen bomb, the nuclear, the atomic bomb then, and that's where this happened. Mm-hmm. I think, what was it? I forget what the 536th Squadron, whatever it was, down in Roswell. What that was, the airplanes, not the B-52s. It was the aircraft that dropped the atomic bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Hiroshima, then Nagasaki. And there was only one squadron that flew it. And that was down around Roswell, right? So what happened is these craft were coming in around White Sands in their area, and they brought them down with their Tesla coil-powered special radar system, and they were able to knock it out with the electromagnetic pulse. And what happened is that it caused them to crash into each other. And when that happened, they went down.
Yeah.
And then he had a team that went down there and recovered the disc. So they had it. The ETs, some of them were dead, some of them were alive. But what they did is they covered the whole thing up. They didn't know how the public would react to it. Plus, they wanted to be able to get the technology and not have it for themselves as a power thing within the military.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want it to go public, and that our enemies at the time would be able to take that technology and build their own stuff. So World War II was won by air superiority, virtually. So after we took out the Nazis' Air Force, then they surrendered pretty much. The militaries had to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we dropped the atomic bombs in Japan, then the whole world knew that they couldn't stand up to that and would just wipe them all out. And so that's when the Japanese made the unconditional surrender. And that changed their whole culture mindset from going from a fascist state to what they have now, basically towards peace.
We were talking about the group that covered up Roswell.
Right. So these guys came in. So there was a committee that was formed. And
Is that Majestic-12?
It's been nomenclatured as that.
Yeah.
But the code name for it was Magic, because the whole tech looked like magic. So then it got to be Majestic-12. So
Got it.
So it was more like magic would be like the magicians, right? The Magi, 12 Magi.
Yeah.
So it all got in. So it's basically the first one, from what Dr. Rear told me, was called the Majesty, and then Majestic-12, and then I think it went down to MIJI, Magic. See, Magic-12. So that's how it got relegated in the nomenclature. So it broke down into different compartments. So it became all compartmented.
Yeah.
So they did that when they were building in Manhattan Project.
And so this organization basically figured out a way to embed itself.
So the committee that was assigned by President Truman got together, and it was considered, they had guys on there that were within Congress. They had, the top physicists and scientists in the world, but they also had the industrial Senate, like Rockefellers, and those types of people that were also involved with it. So what they were looking at is a way that they could capitalize off of it, and the military was looking at a way that they could use it for mass control.
Yeah.
So that's when after Roswell happened, then I forget the general's name at the time, but I don't think it was Stubblebine. I forget the guy's name. But anyway, they went and said, well, it wasn't a UFO crash. It was just a weather balloon that they found. And the guy found the weather balloon. They didn't find this big crash disk, and they didn't go out there with all these military guys and cleaning it up and getting the debris and shipping it off to start it in Roswell.
So we're talking about the initial committee that Truman formed.
So what happened is that committee was formed, and they were investigating it. So they debated whether or not what they're gonna do with it. So then Truman was voted out of office. He was Democrat after FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Oh, it was Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where the crashed Roswell disc went to, along with some of the crew body that they recovered. So anyway, what happened was that Dwight Eisenhower, who was the Allied commander-in-chief, he was a 5-star general and a Republican, and he came into office. And that's what was under his administration that it all went dark. They took all that tech and they were giving it to private defense contractors. And the defense contractors, under the corporate structure and under the patent laws, they got control over that technology, so it all went private. It was no longer public. And Eisenhower lost control of it. And that's why his farewell address, he said at the end that we should be constantly visual about the military-industrial complex. Mm-hmm. So it's went into that group. So it became privatized, and it's a transnational corporation now, a cabal that's not the military-industrial complex. It's the military-industrial, petrodollar financial energy complex. So they were maintaining the global peace and the status quo.
Yeah.
So OPEC and all those guys, are pretty much controlled by, it's part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the technology that come out, if it was made public, which we're trying to do through Congress, by the way, Dr. Greer has met with the Congressional Investigating Committee that's investigating the identified aerial phenomena, they call it now. I think that's what they call it. Used to be UFO, UAPs. So that committee is there. So Dr. Greer's been working with them, with that committee. And then they're also working with this on the Senate side, the House side and the Senate side. But because the House right now is in such shambles, they can't get anything. They can't even pass a budget. They can't even get a speaker that's going to last more than how many speakers they got through.
I know.
So it's all this big control drama. And then they got, what's happened is they got this whole psychodrama in their heads. QAnon and all this other stuff, that's out there, and the reptilians, and blah, 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 blah. That's all a whole psychodrama mythology of speculation from researchers that got the data, and they're part of the control group that were there to put disinformation and lies out there so people will fall for the story.
Right.
And that's what we've got now. And that's part of the people that are in political groups now, like MAGA, MEGA, or whatever it is. They're into this whole conspiracy route, So, and they're getting disinformation, and they think it's truth. And they're believing people who even lie. They're being proven liars, but they got this whole spin drama. And they got it to where people are so afraid that it's my team, my tribe against your team, your tribe. So they've effectively divided the United States. We're no longer united within consciousness. It's all a matter of control. To maintain the status quo, and the status quo is the petrodollar. It keeps everything going. And we don't need it. We don't need the... So with this technology comes out, which we're trying to get Congress to do, to bring it out into the open. We're working with the Pentagon as well. But they have to go against these guys that got deep pockets, because they got control of the whole financial system, the money and everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The petrodollar is what keeps things going. It's really a commodity that's floated based on the price of oil.
Yeah.
So it goes up and down. OPEC controls that. Right now, OPEC is infighting right now. Who's going to control it?
And you've got, the BRIC countries moving off the dollar. So it's...
it's all still based on petroleum. You got, right now, some of the oil-producing nations like Russia and Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, those guys are right now in a struggle for control, too. So that's what we're seeing playing out right now today. What's going on in the Middle East is part of that. Because they know that their days are gone. When this technology comes out,
they're done.
The combustion engine is going to be obsolete.
Yeah.
And that technology has been obsolete for 100 years. So we've had 100 years. And 76 when the truth was sort of manifest and fell out of the sky, or shot out of the sky, didn't fall out of the sky. They don't travel thousands of light years through time and space transdimensionally and be able to materialize here and get
just to fall out,
just to crash.
Yeah.
Oh, crash in the head. I seen them fly into the sides of mountains, man. They're not going to crash into the ground.
Yeah.
They were brought down. It was a target, and they continually to be targeted and brought down. So we're trying to end that. They got this whole conflict going out there. So politically, they've got our side against their tribe.
Right.
our team, our tribe against their tribe. We got Sunnis and the Shias and the Houthis and the Booties and whoever they got. They're all out there conflicting each other.
Totally.
So the whole planet's just in this psychotic state that is not in harmonic resonance.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because I want to come back to our present day for sure. But I would love to know, kind of leading up to it, right, from the time of Truman and Eisenhower when things kind of got out of control. Let's talk about the last few decades up till now. Like, what kind of things has the cabal been doing with this technology, with regards to the psychological warfare operation?
Yeah. So it's, like I said, it's a transnational corporation that basically, as Senator Inouye from Hawaii stated, they have their own army, their own air force, their own funding mechanism that is outside the law itself.
Yeah.
There's no constitutional oversight and control of any of it. So right now, our democracy is threatened to go on collapse. So it's all this whole evolution that started up.
Yeah.
And you have the eschatologists that are part of this whole control drama as well.
Would you explain what that means?
The eschatologists are the ones who study the end of the world and how it's going to end. And it goes back into scripture. So all of this is happening too within belief system. And it's part of this whole global control drama. So, I mean, it's a big deal. Yeah. So the kings of the earth want to remain kings of the earth. It's biblical, but it's factual as well. So that's what's going on. So they're playing this game of risk and having all these wars go on and maintaining this state of fear and keeping us at each other's throats, So after Eisenhower lost control of it, it all went into the defense contractors. And the defense contractors, they're doing the research, have facilities that are bedded within military bases. So they have their own military guys, their own, what would you call, mercenaries that they've hired to for security inside and outside. And then around that, they've used the regular military within the United States to defend that. And they're deep underground. I mean, down stories. They've even used atomic tunnelers that were able to drill through the bedrock. And they've made these huge tunnels, and they got maglev trains in there that can go anywhere. They don't fly through the air. They just get on the maglev, and they're gone. And they can go 500 miles an hour through the tunnels. They break the sound barrier if they want. And they exist, right? It goes from White Sands, Alamogordo, where I'm spacing out the name where they built the atomic bomb. What do they call that town? Los Alamos. So it goes from Los Alamos to Area 51.
Wow.
And get there in maybe 15, 20 minutes. It's really cruises, And so they got this whole system that's their underground bases. And they've got whole areas where they go and recruit these kids out of grade school and high school that are geniuses, and they get them to come and work there. So they're working on the real science. Stuff that they're working on in the universities now. They're playing with Tinker toys.
Yeah.
So compared to, let's say we got a B-2 stealth bomber or a 747, compared to the ET craft, they're like Tinker toys.
Yeah.
You know what a Tinker toy is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that.
So how would you say the reverse engineered craft compares on the spectrum from the B-2 bombers to the ET craft?
Well, they can go interstellar, and the only thing holds them back is that if you're going towards the speed of light, the whole molecular structure of the craft becomes light. So if you're going the speed of light, you are light. And then the whole molecular structure would break down into photons and just disperse out as light into the universe and be gone. So the craft itself would disintegrate, basically, So what they have to do is they have to have a magnetic bottle, or they use a magnetic field bubble around it. It's really a bubble. And that's what maintains the integrity of the craft that is accelerated and expanded molecularly into a plasma state, relative speaking, in quantum scalar terms, relative to the Earth. So if we'd observe it, we'd just see them as, say, that the house we're sitting in, when it accelerates towards the speed of light, the whole molecular structure would expand with it. So we would probably, you and I would probably be, maybe our whole dimensional structure would probably be, say, a mile.
Wow.
Or a kilometer. For the house itself, maybe be 5 or 10. You see? Relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But to us, in that accelerator, we wouldn't see any change. Our dimensional perspective would still be where it is now, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
We'd see ourselves with no change. Only from Earth would there be a change. And the further away you get from the center of the Earth, through acceleration, time is dilated and it slows down. So Hiking said at the speed of light, if you reach the speed of light, at the tangent point to the event horizon, there wouldn't be any motion. Time would be zero. So there wouldn't be any transition. So what is acceleration times time equals distance? You know, that's physics. That's the basic law of physics. So if you're at the speed of light and time is zero, there's no time. So you're just trapped, not moving forward. You're frozen in space and time forever, as Stephen Hawking would say. But that's the reductionist viewpoint. And deductive reasoning is what they use to get to that point, to that single point. However, that's the wrong scientific method to use. You have to use inductive reasoning. And so Dr. Rudolf Scheid, he was the chair of the Smithsonian Astrophysics Center at Harvard. By studying quasars, he was able to determine that if you got to and he doesn't call them black holes, that's the wrong nomenclature. He calls them eternally collapsing objects. So they're collapsing eternally. So you could think of that as a whole transport gate system that interlocked by entanglement to every other galaxy or every other black hole throughout the universe, no matter the size. So if you get into the white hole black hole idea, where the sun is coming out of a black hole, locally speaking, so that's the white hole. On the other end of it is the black hole, kind of a yin-yang type of concept. Light follows darkness, that sort of thing. So what happens is that once you accelerate to that time and space, so the whole molecular structure within the craft itself is just a plasma molecular field. And the only thing that keeps it integral is the containment field.
Yeah.
But what controls the containment field, what turns the dials and all that, is consciousness, right? But once you get to that state, the consciousness of the beings inside it are integral and integrated within the molecular structure of the craft itself. So it gets to the point where consciousness really controls the whole operation through
It's crazy.
Integrated into a technological computerized system that maintains the field structure. So it's a consciousness interface. And so once you get to that point in space and time, as Dr. Scheid said, that instead of being trapped into a purgatory, into a hell where you can't escape from the reductionist idea of it, to that single point, Scheid showed that at that point it becomes omnipresent by entanglement in consciousness, which means that you're at every point in space and time throughout infinity, throughout the universe, throughout the cosmos. And so it's your intent of being determines where that whole buff plasma recongeals and does what I call chromatic sublimation. Goes from a plasma state back to a manifest physical solid state. It's your intent of being. So So you get to where you want to be. And if your whole consciousness is rooted into duality, and duality would be good and bad,
right?
This and that is separation. It's really, it's what it is.
So do you think that the Cabal's reverse engineered craft are operating at that sophisticated of a level that you just described?
They can't get there.
They're not that far.
Well, what limits them is their consciousness, their state of beingness. So if you go transdimensional, and we're talking transdimensional, beyond the speed of light, because that's where consciousness is.
Yeah.
So once you get to that point in space and time where you're omnipresent, you're with the Godhead.
Yeah.
That is everywhere.
Yeah.
So Schrodinger said the total numbers of minds in the universe is one. So that's the singularity. And it's all consciousness.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to have your field resonance to become in harmony with the universal morphogenic field. So your morphogenic field has to be able to resonate enough and be phased into it enough. If not, what happens? You bounce, the field bounces.
Right.
You become
So
repulsive.
is it fair to say that because this group is using this technology for kind of self-serving nefarious reasons, that that intrinsically limits them from actually going interstellar?
Yeah. Actually, well, it's more than that.
Okay.
The ETs that are a higher state of beingness within consciousness, if these guys, and we're still at level zero civilization, because what limits us is our consciousness.
Yeah.
Our fear of the other guy, the fear of what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting wars.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we fighting wars? Over what? Oil?
Mm-hmm.
Or a religious belief system? Which is basically the same damn thing when you get down to it.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just a tribal thing.
Yeah.
It's tribalism. And the tribalism is for control.
Yeah.
And they're not really following the Messiah or Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness or Muhammad consciousness, whatever you want to say, It's all segregation, separation because of fear.
So is it fair to say that the Cabal's craft can travel within our galaxy but not outside it, or is that too simplistic?
Outside the solar system.
Really just the solar system? Yeah. Okay, got it.
Well, there's actually the celestials on a level 10 are there, right? And so there's basically a consciousness quarantine out here.
Yeah.
So when our consciousness goes up to the higher consciousness, it's completely out of phase and out of harmony. So when it hits that universal celestial mind consciousness, it gets there and it's just deflected. It's repelled. And if the only reason, and if you're still locked into this pragmatic earth mindset of reductionism, us against them within duality, there's no harmonic resonance at all. So if your intent is to go wagging training out into space, full phasers blasting and full carbon torpedoes flying out, and blowing shit up, nothing going to happen. It's just a state of being that we're an existential threat because of our development of technology and scalar weapon systems. That it's getting to a point where the containment of quarantine they're going to have to come in and put down this craziness. Also, they're going to let us destroy the planet or go out. We already screwed up our planet already. Look how screwed up it is. Mm-hmm. Are they going to let us go to some other planet where the people don't have any concept of war and go there and change that planet into another Earth? Mm-hmm. We're kind of like a cancer spreading. And so, first of all, we can't get there from here because here is where we're resonating at. And we really put ourselves under quarantine. Quarantine exists, but we're really doing it to ourselves because we're so out of phase and out of harmony with each other. So first of all, we got to have peace on the earth and peace with ourselves and look to the summation of one, where the first, in 1993, in Wickensburg, Arizona, by Superstition Mountain at Robbins Robinson's Mining World, when it was just being built. I don't even know if it's still there. Kind of like a mining town theme park. We were there. That's where we were there with NASA and all of these other guys, all the psychologists. They were trying to shut us down, and everything was working. ETs were there, but they had these 2 camps. And it was, anyway, they were there. And the mothership came in, and it was just cloaked, but it had 2 running position lights on one to the end. And I saw it come in. It was, I don't know what altitude it was at. It was probably maybe 300, how high was it? Maybe 800 or 900 feet above ground, 700 feet above the ground. And it came in, and it was huge. And all I could see was 2 position lights. So the thing was about a mile or 2 across.
Wow. And this was part of a CE5 trip that you were doing?
Yeah. So the scout ship came in first, and I took a photograph of it. I still got it. Dr. Greer's got it.
Would you send me a picture of it?
Yeah, it's in a photo. It's a regular photograph.
Yeah. If you just want to take a phone picture with it, that's perfect.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do, or I can scan it and send it to you.
Yeah, whatever's easiest.
And anyways, so the mothership came in and had 2 position lights, and I was up there looking at it, and one of the position lights reconfigured itself. And I'm a pilot, and so one of the basic maneuvers we have to get your pilot license is doing a figure 8.
Huh.
You know what?
Yeah.
In this flying, I looked up and I says, "That goddamn thing's up there doing a figure 8. What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
And so I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Here it was doing a figure 8. What's it doing a figure 8? And we have buddy systems where we have buddies, that, in case somebody gets afraid or something and they break down in their consciousness, we remove them from the circle and put them into a safe area that we've got designated. And ETs will respect that safe area, right? So if you're having a psychological trauma because of your duality, is this the reptilians or is it the Palladians, and you vacillate with that and spin it around in this whole duality concept where, it's the good guys or the bad guys. Yeah. Well, it's them. They're all working together in harmonic resonance, from a type 1 civilization to a level 1 to a level 10.
Yeah.
And that's where they interface. So anyway, it did a figure 8, and my buddy, I lent her my round card to pick up a friend of hers that would just come in town, or she went and picked her up wherever she was at and came back. And so we were sitting on the top of this hill about 100 feet high. There was 3 teams. Blue team was Dr. Greer. I was on the green team. There was a yellow team. And we were spread out about 100 yards apart, maybe 100 meters, And so 3 teams formed a triangle on the ground. And my team was the green team, and I was there. But I connected with this scout ship that came in. I was with Dr. Greer when it first came in the first night, and it hit both of us with this orange pulse light. It locked into both of us. I was standing next to him, signaling with this green chem light like this, and then it locked onto the both of us. And so during the whole C5 event with the green team that I was on, they had all these psychologists there that were squabbling about each other and about the boarding order. If the ET comes on, who's going to be on first? I want to be, you got to have 8 or 9, 10 guys. So they wanted to be in that number. And then I got into that number. And then they said, well, no. And so it was all this whole control thing that they were doing. And I just couldn't get into their vibe. So I just did the protocols of my own. I'd been doing work with Sherry Adamak and Dr. Greer before I went to this one. We did field work together. I knew him since 91. This was 93 when this happened. So anyway, she came up and she said, what's going on? I said, well, the scout ship's right there, but it's cloaked down. It's right over the top of the yellow team. And then there's this, I said, sit down. And the motherships come in, but nobody could see it because it's up there, And I says, sit down and see if you can see it move. And I've already seen it move, but nobody else can see it because when they look up, it stopped. And all you see is these 2 position lights, and they look like background stars. And because the whole body of the craft is cloaked. You can see through it. It's like transparent. You have the ability to project the background star field onto the front of their craft. So it virtually makes it transparent.
Yeah.
And the military's got that now too.
Wow.
But anyway, so she sat down And while I was talking to her, I was still looking up. So it broke off from doing the figure eight, the lazy eight, and then it did a horizontal line and then dropped down from the center of that horizontal line and formed the center of another horizontal line. So it made two horizontal lines in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she sat down, she looked up, and I looked up, and I saw it, and it went up and down, but I didn't want to tell her it went up and down because I didn't want people to later on say I was leading her into thinking that it did. Mm. She says, I saw it too. It moved up and down. You're right, that's right. And, oh, you saw it too. So that was my confirmation that she had. And so about 3 months later, I was writing up the report for Dr. Greer. I was drawing everything out because I wanted to draw things out by hand. And when I did the lazy eight and then the two horizontal lines and a vertical line, I looked at it and go, oh my God, it's an equation. They gave us the universal given. Infinity equals 1.
Wow.
That's their whole modus operandi. That's the message. That whole event was that.
Yeah.
That they're all one together, working together.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And we've seen different species on the ground now at the same time. So none of them are working on any unilateral covert operations, because they communicate with thought and consciousness. Their technology interfaces on that level with unconsciousness. So thought is the universal translator because the interface with thought translates the idea, the concepts, not the words, but the idea is the formulation within the thought before you make the words. So they pick up on your thought before you can vocalize them with speech.
Yeah.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, totally.
So that's the interface that they have within each other and their craft. So they know what the other guys are doing all the time.
Yeah.
So there's no covert intent. There's no lying going on. Donald Trump couldn't be there.
So that all makes complete sense to me. Now, I would question you as well. Do you think that there, in addition to the extraterrestrial phenomenon, there's also, at this moment, some form of non-human sentience participating in our reality, in our world, that comes from a lower vibrational consciousness? That's maybe partly why we are so closed off from the rest of our star system?
Well, Dr. Greer wrote a position paper, and it's called The Extraterrestrials and the New Cosmology. Mm-hmm. And it goes into all that. And I think you wrote it in the 90s. It's on the site, on the Serious Discourse.
I think I've read it before, but yeah, I would love if you would dive deeper into it.
So, yeah, there are different spiritualities. I mean, beyond the physical realm, there's also a spiritual side. Mm-hmm. And George W. Meek, M-E-K, set up research labs for corporations. And when he retired, he and his wife set up some laboratories too. And they got people together and were able to test them in laboratories to where they're, if they were psychic enough, to what their expanded awareness. So their awareness is not introverted, and you're not keeping it within fear within yourself. You're taking it and going up into becoming expanded awareness. So you're actually expanding your whole sensory perception.
Yeah. That makes sense.
All of them. Uh-huh. So it's touch and taste and sight, all of that, all those perceptions. So you're expanding them to go outwardly. You're becoming more extroverted and more open to that. And the more you become in harmony with the rest of the universe and the rest of the beings that live within that universe, then you, through experience, so if you have a low fear factor to begin with, and that opens you up more. And so, and the people that have fear shut themselves off, they clam up and they go into a defensive posture. But if you're more open to it, and that you've meditated enough that you consciously intend to raise your awareness and your perception, and then the ETs, you can phase into that.
Right.
And you can harmonize and resonate with them.
Right.
So it's good to go out with people and just by yourself, So if you go out with a bunch of people that have already got to that level within consciousness through experience that's been documented and proved, then you can go out with them, and then your fear factor drops down.
Right.
But if you're still locked into this duality situation from what you've read, movies you've seen, that it's embedded into your subconscious, books you read, and all this sort of thing, that when a similar type of experience starts to unfold, does your defense mechanism sort of click in?
Right.
And you go, oh, is this the good guys or this the bad guys? So you vacillate before approach avoidance, instead of that approach. Not to avoid, but that approach. So you're open to the approach that they have. And so when you have these experiences and you find out, well, you let them know that you're afraid and they backed off and they left, They weren't invasive. They didn't try to pick you up and eat you for lunch, So after you've had some experience like that, then your fear factor drops away.
Right.
And then if you can work with people like that and you can, you suppress fear enough to be open, then you have your own experiences. And then when you have your own confirmed experiences, you get your confirmations, then you understand more. So that changes your whole state of beingness. So you're no longer the same person you were before the experience.
Right.
So if you want to have these encounters and these experiences and you go out, find out it's real, then there's no going back to the don't know stage, because then you know.
Right. And we've mentioned Dr. Greer a few times in this conversation. Could you give the listeners a little bit more background on, who he is and how you two got to know each other?
Okay. Dr. Greer is the founder and international director of the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, also the Disclosure Project, and also for the Orion Project and that was trying to get new technologies out. So there's 3 stages that we're involved in: extraterrestrial contact, CE5, and then the other is disclosing the truth, not the control drama, through speculation and with that mythology. Then we do that through documentation, witness experiences that have been witnessed, like the movie Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Contact has begun. That's presented in there. The movie Sirius, the first one, SIRIUS. It's on YouTube. You can go watch that. Our cast member and an associate producer of that movie. And that was the first one to come out. I've made 4 or 5 since then. And they're all on the Sirius Disclosure website. There's links there for people to see it. But anyway, so Dr. Greer, when he had an experience when he was young too, but he's 8 years younger than me. And so we had similar experiences. And I had my onboard experience where I was taken on board the craft when I was trying to design my 3-stage fusion electromagnetic, my ramjet.
Yeah. This is what I was referencing when I talked about the second experience. Let's definitely come back to that.
Yeah. So I was out of college. I'd gotten enough knowledge from getting my degree in aerospace tech and all that. And I came up with I was doing my basic design theory, but I could know how it maneuvered and the outside of it, but I didn't know the whole inside look of it, the guts of it, how it worked. So I stuck on a concept of how mechanically it would move inside the thing. So for about a month, I'd meditate, almost every night, trying to, in my mind's eye, I do a lot of visualization and doing thought work and trying to visualize things. An artist does that, when they visualize before they paint. So I tried to visualize this ET craft of a flying saucer. And from my experiences as a younger child, the ones I'd seen flying around, try to visualize that in my mind's eye, and then had that intent of going on board and seeing the inside of it and being with the people inside, and interacting with them on that level. So I had just broken up with my girlfriend and my first love affair, and I was in grief. And it was like we broke up, and it was like somebody died.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience with women just hadn't worked out. So I thought maybe women from another planet would be better, and that maybe at the same time I might be able to get on board and see how the thing works. So I was going through this grief, and I learned how to do self-hypnosis to heal myself, because I'm a light worker and do psychic healings on myself, and I do it on other people, but not so much now, but because I'm focused more on CE5. But at that time, my mother was psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudience, transmedium. And these guides of hers would come through her and teach me how to do what my mother did. So I learned about my own spirit guides or guardian angels, whatever, and how to make contact with them. That's all through meditation and through consciousness. And the technique I learned was to go into a peaceful place where there's no distractions, no noise, and get into an alpha state out of the beta state where you're constantly bombarded with something, get in peace and quiet where you don't feel threatened or, there's no distractions, and get it into visualize yourself walking into an elevator. And you get inside the elevator and the door closes and you look up, you push the floor and you want to go down to the 10th floor or up to the 10th floor, however way you want to look at it. To me, it was counting myself down into this consciousness state. So I would when the door closed, I'd push the 10 button, and then I'd see the lights above the door flash from 1 3 times. See the number 1 3 times, 2 3 times, 3 4 5 6 to 10. And so that got me into this self-induced hypnotic state where I was the operator and the subject, not the opposite of a hypnotist, where this hypnotist is the operator and you were the subject. So I was the operator and the subject within my own consciousness. So I would go down to the 10th floor and the doors would open, and I'd go out and I visualize this whole sort of my villa made out of marble, black onyx columns and with gold tops and bases, and it was all white marble, and they go out into this big terrace, overlook the ocean, and there's this staircase that went down to the beach, and it was my own private beach, and it's basically my fortress of solitude, to quote from Superman. You go there and I'd find solitude, and I'd be able to work on whatever was bothering me, within consciousness. And I visualize that going away and see the intent with what I wanted to see manifest within my life, and see that materialize, and then let it go. And by the laws of mind, the same physical laws of the universe, by the laws of motion, every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. Whatever is placed in motion will stay in motion unless operated upon by an outside force. So I put that thought intent and projected it out into the cosmos and wanted it to have it manifest within my life. So if you let it go, by the laws of motion, it'll manifest. And the only thing that can knock it off course is your own doubt, because your own doubt within consciousness will go back to it. And if you doubt it, it'll dissolve it or knock it off course. So that's the way I would heal myself with, all these anxieties and fears and troubles I had. So grieving with this loss of my first true love, I thought was true, but it didn't really was really traumatic. And so I was there to heal myself. And so, I'd also been doing these meditations to try to go see what's outside the spacecraft. And so while I was going down on the elevator to my lab, my villa, my fortress of solitude, I was thinking, well, women from Earth haven't been doing all that well. Maybe women from another planet would be better, Maybe I could relate to them more than I can with the humanity. I hadn't been able to relate to people in general and myself, because I felt really different, and I guess I was. Anyway, so while I was going down in the elevator, all of a sudden, the visualization, the elevator just disappeared. And what I could see was a night sky above where I was. And I saw the moon. It was clear night, and I could see the stars, and the moon was a full moon. And there was this cloud that was there. And the moonlight was shining through the cloud, and the silver lighting and all that of the cloud. The outside it was silver, but the center of it was a little darker, because the light couldn't penetrate it. And it was sort of a grayish in the center of it, darker than around the edges where the moonlight could shine through. And then all of a sudden I saw this white disc come flying in and stop and flew into the cloud. I go, well, that's cool. So this is in the meditation, right? So then while I'm seeing all this in this meditative state, this really relaxed, deep state of concentration, I had this thought, this idea just pop into my head, like a light bulb going on, like the aha thing. And all of a sudden, I could no longer feel it was summertime. We didn't have air conditioning, so I was pretty much all natural. But my roommates had gone on flights, and I was in Washington, D.C. on Duke Street, Little River Turnpike, inside the Beltway at the Mayflower Apartments complex there. And so anyway, I was on the top floor of a 4-story building, flat roof. And the next thing I knew, I couldn't feel this lambskin rug that I'd sit on and meditate on, head out in the living room. And it's kind of like my prayer room, yes. And I'd meditate on that. And I could feel it in the floor, but all of a sudden I couldn't feel it under me. And that was strange. And then all of a sudden I felt like the wind blowing by my ears, and I could start hearing traffic. So I said, well, this isn't right. And I opened my eyes, and I was floating about 10 feet above the roof of my apartment building.
Crazy.
A 4-story apartment building, And I wasn't freaked out because, I worked for United Airlines at the time. I'd had my pilot license since 18. I've been flying myself and flew in the Navy during flight school. So I said, well, this is cool. And I could see the cars going down the street, and turning into the driveway, going right by me. And there was 4-story apartment buildings. There's 4 on one side of the block, 4 on the other side of the block. Olympic-sized pool in the center of the complex. And there was a clubhouse and grassy area with trees, and there's parking in front of the pool and parking in front of the apartment buildings. So that there was the low rises went on 3 sides of the block. On the other side of the block, directly across from me, was a 13-story high-rise. And that's where the richer people lived because, they got more rent for that one than they had covered parking and everything. And I said, so there I was. And I said, well, this is cool. Mom would be proud of me. I'm doing a astral projection. I've levitated. I've projected out of my apartment, floating above the roof of this thing. Oh, how wonderful. Just digging it. And all of a sudden, I saw this blue light, and it was completely surrounded me. And then I saw what looked like a sort of a violet magenta-colored light going around like this, and it was creating this field. This blue beam of light, but around the edges was like this wine magenta colored, like a laser going around real fast like this. And I said, well, I'm not doing that. And I started going up higher. Well, wait a minute, I'm not making myself go up higher. Where's this light coming from? So I looked up, and I was completely shocked and aghast that what I saw above me was really this cloud I'd seen in the meditation with the moon shining through it, just exactly as I visualized in my meditation. And the light was coming down out of the bottom of that cloud, and there was this dark oval shaped, disc-shaped object inside of it. So the whole thing was coming into manifest reality. The visualization was manifest there. It was real. And so I started going higher and higher up this blue beam of light, and I saw the bottom of it. And next thing I knew, I was inside the thing, you know, and I was sitting on the floor, no clothes on. And it's like inside of a pretty good hangar bay, you know, good sized hangar bay. So I can't tell you how large the craft itself was, but the hangar bay was, oh man, you could fit a pretty good sized aircraft inside of it, you know. And it was all bright white light in there. And so I said, well, this was cool. And I looked over to my left, and I saw what looked like a bulkhead, but only was white, you know. And there was like a door. It was like a door frame. And there was this little window, you know, kind of like a little slot window, you know, not a big window, but, you know, just like the mailbox drops on doors people have where they drop the mail through the door. It was about the size of that, maybe a little bigger. So I said, oh, that's interesting. And so I got up and walked over there and looked into that window. And what I saw was about half dozen of human-looking women. About, excuse me, I was about, I think I was 23 or 24 at the time. And they looked to be about my age. And they were Caucasian women. The ones I saw, and there could have been other ones in there, but I only saw about half a dozen of these women. And the one that I saw mostly, they were all sitting down, and they were wearing these turquoise mylar jumpsuits, you know, or like dive suits, you know. I don't know if you saw the old black rubber dive suits they used to have, scuba divers used to wear. It was like that, but only instead of being black, they were turquoise and real shiny looking. And they were wearing those. And nice looking women, as far as like human looking women. So I was interested there, you know. And one had this long chestnut brown colored hair. And the other ones are sitting down at these control consoles, and they had these panels with light panels, and there were all different kind of look like lights flashing on and off and all this stuff. And the one that seemed to be the leader, she was walking around inside there, and she came right into my field of view, you know. And I thought, oh, this is so great. I always wanted to be on board one of these things. And here I am in my astral body, you know. I'm here in my spirit form, and they can't see me. And as soon as I thought that, they all turned and looked at me. And I was busted looking in their window in my, you know, completely naked, you know. And I would be a registered sex offender on Earth, I guess, if I would have got busted. I said, oh, no, busted. So I dropped down to the deck. And I said, man, I got to get out of here. I got to break off this meditation because I'm really back in my apartment sitting in the building, you know. And so I tried to reverse this. I had a technique where I visualized the Saturn V blasting off and count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 ignition. And then I would come up out of the state in case the phone rang and I needed to get out of this trance really quick. So I initiated that wake-up call, if you will. It usually worked, but this time nothing happened. So that was kind of freaky. So I just freaked out. And all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, I was back in my apartment, and I opened my eyes, and there I was sitting there, you know, in the same position I was. I had next to the coffee table, or cocktail table, whatever you call it, and my watch was right there. And I looked at my watch, and it was about 3:20 in the morning. I'd gotten up at 3 o'clock because I was so much in grief with my breakup with my girlfriend. And I went, boy, it was only a dream, man. I'm so glad about that. You know, it wasn't real. What a relief, you know, because I was busted where I shouldn't have been. I was someplace where I shouldn't have been. And like I said, you know, the results would have been, well, following me to this day. I guess they really are still. But anyway, so when I thought that, all of a sudden I heard this low frequency hum coming through the ceiling. And as it moved, it kind of did a Doppler shift, you know, because of the motion. And I looked up at the ceiling, but I couldn't see through the ceiling. I just could hear the sound, and it was moving over. And we had this big balcony that was about 14 feet long, had these French doors, windows on both sides of it. We didn't have enough money to really cover the window up good. So I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I saw this dark object come floating in. It was kind of curved. I thought, oh, it must be a disc, flying disc. And the object came in, and it kept coming and coming and coming in. And then all of a sudden, it blocked out the whole night sky. It covered up the whole block. It was bigger than the whole block, the city block, as far as I could see. And it blocked out the whole night sky. And then all of a sudden, these lights came in, and it lit up the whole thing like noon.
Wow.
The whole block, man, lit the whole thing up. And I go, whoa. So that kind of freaked me up. So what I did, I said, oh my God, they tracked me back. They either tracked my spirit back to my body, or they homed in onto my thought. So where are you going to hide? Like trying to hide from the angels, man. You can't hide. Yeah. They're going to find you wherever you're at. But I was still freaked, so I went and jumped behind a chair. I had this ottoman chair, this big chair. Yeah. And I was not ottoman, but, kind of like I don't know what kind of chair it was, but it was this big chair, and I kind of was padded and everything. So I raised my head up like this and just looked over the armrest out the window, what's going on? And all of a sudden, while I was doing that, something dropped out from the bottom of this craft, and came down, came right up to my balcony and went, whoosh, and it lit the whole inside of my apartment up. Like one of these carbon arc searchlights, Wow. One of these bright lights like you'd see at at a carnival or, a car, like a searchlight. It was that bright, and it was bright, just flooded the whole inside of my place. I go, holy. I said, oh man, this is happening. This is really happening. I can't believe this is happening. So I got up and started pacing up. Man, this is happening. I was doing this, pacing back and forth like a panther inside his cage, And so I said, I just can't handle this. I know. They're here. I know. I wanted to go. I've always wanted to go. And here they are. And I said, oh, man, I can't handle it. This is freaking me out, And I said, I just can't handle it. So I asked my grandfather, who had crossed over, and he used to go with me when I was learning how to fly. Uh-huh. If a pilot tells you he's an atheist, he's a liar. Because once on your first solo flight, taking off's good. But when you're coming in for a landing, you're praying to God that you don't screw up and crash, because it's all over with. It's just, you screw up, you're dead.
Totally.
And so I was always had my grandfather flying in the right seat with me. And I was in the left. And I'd always, ask them to. So I said, Grandpa, go to him. And Naja and Ramajan, those were my mother's spirit guides. And Running Elk and Gray Eagle, those were mine. And I asked them all, go to the ETs, tell them, I'm sorry, I just can't go right now. I can't handle it. I just can't do it. So as soon as I thought that, the light on the balcony went out. Then it retracted back into the bottom of the craft. The craft lights darkened down again. And the thing moved about, about 50 yards to the right of me as I was looking out the window. And there was, the main body of the craft is huge, but there was shaped like a mushroom. And so there was like a gondola hanging down from the bottom of it, but it's part of it, integrated into the craft. Yeah. And so it shifted over to the side. The reason it had to shift over to the side because it was so low over the swimming pool. As it moved off, if it would have crashed into the high rise on the other side of the pool. Wow. So it did a shift over to the side, and it started moving off. And at this time, I got out from behind a chair, and I looked out the window behind the curtain. I was standing off the side looking, still hiding, but looking. And I wanted to get an idea of what it looked like and try to use my night vision, because color's pretty much gone. So, your cones aren't that active, but the rods in your eyes are. So you get more light and shadow, and I could get some color perception as well. So I was trying to get an idea of what color the thing was, because it was all kind of like black, dark. And so I looked at the evergreen tree, the pine trees that were there. The thing was about the same color as them, reflectivity wise. So I figured that the craft itself was either black or a deep forest green, like the evergreen trees, like the pine trees. And as it started moving off, I looked up, and it was like watching. If you ever stopped at a train crossing and watched the cars as they go by, as they kind of flash by, you can see a gap between them as they go pass by like that. So it's like watching a train go by, waiting for the arm on the railroad guard to come up so you could go across another train path. Well, this gondola thing was so long and big, it was like freight cars going by on a train. And what I was seeing were these kind of 2-story windows that were completely blacked out. Like you would take the back of a Polaroid photograph, that dark negative color. It was kind of like that. So it was blacked out, so you couldn't see any light coming out of it. But so that was the freight car effect of these windows going by. And that took 3 or 4, maybe 10 seconds for the thing to go by. That's how long it was. I could have went out on a balcony with a baseball and hit it.
Wow.
I could have thrown a baseball and hit the thing. It was that low.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it started moving off towards the high rise and passed it by. It was completely silent. But as further away it got from me, then the size of it, it took a while for the sky to open up, because it blocked out the whole sky. And it started moving off. I don't know how long I watched it. I just watched, but it kind of got far enough away I could get the whole dimension of it. And it looked like a mushroom.
Like a mushroom cap almost?
Yeah, like a shiitake mushroom. It was kind of like that. And it came down and it formed like a spades in a card game, or a mushroom. And so the bottom part of it was the gondola part that I saw. And the main body was like this huge mushroom-shaped cloud. But in the center of it was this huge blue topaz or crystal with spinning counter blue. Yeah. It was, teal blue and spinning counterclockwise.
Wow.
I mean, that was, so you saw this big blue light, but the main craft was a lot more massive of that. So at a distance, all you would see this big blue light. And the fastest of the thing was spinning around like that. So it's spinning counterclockwise. And so it just moved off, and I watched it until it either went over a hill and disappeared, or it turned sideways, and I could no longer see the blue part, or they turned off that light, but it was gone. Wow. So I thought, oh man, this is something. And it was, what time was it? Almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, what am I going to do? I stayed up until Good Morning America came on TV. It turned on the radio. Said, this is inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C. I mean, it's got to be 90 inside of 95, Beltway around D.C. It's got to be on the radio. It's got to be, and nothing, no reports. I said, well, it's got to be on TV. So I waited for Good Morning America, turned on the TV, nothing. I said, oh man. So my apartment was on the street, on Duke Street there, Little River Turnpike. And across the street, directly across the street, was 7-Eleven. So I knew that the early edition of the newspaper would be out. It says, well, it's got to be front page news, man. Washington, D.C., with this huge thing coming in. It's got to be the front page. So I got my jeans on, my shirt, put my best, I used to wear cowboy boots all the time, dingo boots, put my boots on, and went down on the elevator and walked around the corner, was going to go to the crosswalk light and push the button to get on the crosswalk and go to 7-Eleven, get the early edition of the newspaper. So I came around the corner and I walked over to the light and pushed the button, and I looked. There was the Potomac Gas and Light Company there. They were changing the transformer because this crap blew out the transformer. Wow. So the magnetic field that thing was emitting to blow out a transformer, reverse current flow from that field to that transformer, they just burn it out, blow it out. Had to be massive, I go, oh, wow. So there was confirmation that what I saw was real, And so a light turned green. I walked across the crosswalk, and there was the morning edition to the, I guess, Washington Post, or I forget which newspaper it was. And I pulled it out. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing on the radio, nothing on TV, nothing in the newspaper. So I was freaked. Went back inside my apartment. I couldn't sleep. And so it got to be, I was on East Coast time, so I waited till it was like 6:30 in the morning here in Denver. Called my dad up. I'm like, Dad, I had this thing. What should I do? So I don't know what to do, son. I believe you. I know you'd never lie to me. So what should I do? And he said, well, I don't know. I said, I'll just wait until other reports come out, and then I'll be just one of the witnesses, one of the other guys that saw it,
Yeah.
Nothing. Carried that with me. I didn't talk about it for about for 6 years. Because I just got off probation. I don't want somebody to say, hey, kid, what you been smoking, You're wrecked out of your mind, kid. What the hell? You know how they are. And so I waited for years. Then I finally started talking about it. And so I transferred from D.C. to Denver. And all of a sudden, there was the Roper report. And this guy named Roper was interviewing all the airline crews, all the flight crews, to come in and write up reports that they had UFO encounters. And so the airline says, okay, well, we've agreed to this with Roper. And you can go in and write up your report and talk, and there's no repercussions from the company. You got a green light to go talk to him. So I said, cool. So I went down. I don't know where the building was here in Denver, and I walked into it, and it kind of looked like a high school. They had desks that you sit, high school desks you sit in, with the little tabletop and place to put your books under, man. Mm-hmm. I think it was like that. Anyway, I was sitting at this little table, I think, and I was writing down my report about this encounter I had. And so I finished up the report, and I got up and was walking to turn it in. And there was this woman that I knew from Washington, D.C., who had transferred to Denver. Her name was Tara Hanscom. I said, Tara, you're here too? I said, you had a UFO experience? She said, yeah. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, turns out she was living in the Oakwood apartments. We're just a couple blocks towards the Beltway from where I was staying. Oakwood was, and where a lot of people were staying. She was living there. And she told me, she says, yeah, one night I was there and I saw this disc over the top a block or so away, and this blue light was coming out, and I saw this guy going up inside this blue light inside this craft. I said, Tara, that was me.
Wild,
yeah. So that was like 6 or 7 years. Let's see.
And y'all confirmed it was the same night and everything?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She was living there and I was there.
Yeah, wow.
It had to be, she said, because, she was just south of me, a block or two away. We used to go over there and party, too. So, because the airline crews were living around there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so, I guess it was Landmark Shopping Center was close.
That must have been a pretty powerful moment to have that, other person validate your experience.
Yeah. And it was good I could talk about it, too, without fear of losing my job,
Right. Wow.
But anyway, so that was in 1973 when the encounter happened. I think I transferred to Denver in 1976, and I think it was in 78 or so,
when that happened. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I love all the experiences you've shared. I think the last topic I wanted to ask you about was just with regards to where do we go from here? I mean, do you think that we're at the precipice? We're going to clean up our act and have open communications with extraterrestrials?
Well, we already have. There are now, Dr. Greer, like I said, I met him in 91 when I was giving my Ramjet presentation at Colorado State there. And I would give mine in the morning, and I had a speaker's badge on at the conference and at the forum. And Dr. Greer, I was walking down, I had access to all the other speakers as well. And I saw this big sign out that says Dr. Stephen N. Greer, founder and director of the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence and the C5 initiative. And I said, wow, I'm gonna see that guy when he comes on. So I walked in there and watched his presentation. And he was showing some videos that he took in Gulf Breeze about these 3 craft that come in, and had MUFON guys out with him, and 2 or 3 different independent filmers of this whole event, and these 3 or 4 craft that came in. And then he talked about his onboard experience with the ETs. Well, so how happened, and this was in '91. And this happened in '73, and that's when my onboard experience happened.
Wow.
It was he had his experience at the same time.
Wow.
So I was in Annandale, Virginia, and he was in Asheville, North Carolina.
That's crazy.
Right down the road.
Yeah.
Right down 95. And so when he said that and had this same experience, and then I said, well, I stayed after his presentation. I said, well, about time he showed up, I've been waiting for you. I said, I want to join your group, man. And so I joined his group right there in 91, right there on the spot. And I'm still active with them, doing volunteer work.
That's awesome.
So that's 33 years ago.
Yeah. And I should clarify my question, because I certainly agree that individuals have been having contact with these beings. I guess what I meant more so was, do you think we'll be at a point where civilization...
I digress. Sorry about that. But
no worries.
Yeah, so I've been with Dr. Greer for 33 years now, going on 33. And in that time, I've done, I don't know, maybe I've done so many of his training events, maybe about 50. I was on his core team member in the early days. Now I'm pretty much retired from that because, I can't keep up with the kids climbing up the mountain. But so I've made way for the younger ones to step in and get involved with him, because there's a lot of people that want to learn from him as well. And I'm pretty much teaching on my own now, as you know. But so he and I, I used to have a 98 Camaro, Z28. He'd come in Denver, and I pick him up from the airport, and then I'd let him drive my Camaro down. I'd go with him, and we'd go down to Cresttown, Colorado here, San Luis Valley, and we'd do a week event in the field there.
Yeah.
And we got to talk. We got to know each other pretty good. I did I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 years doing that. And I don't know, from, I guess it was 93 to when 2012, when we were filming Sirius down there. So is that time span that not all the time would he drive my car, but he would rent an SUV at the while, and then 5 or 6 other guys would come in. You got to be his assistants and all that, But I would still be part of the team, But that's when he was doing 45 or 50 people at a time, and now it's down to 25. And he tries to get 20 people that aren't part of the team now, part of the he has 5 spots open for other people. So anyway, but I still do volunteer work with him. I was at the National Press Club event and the premiere event in 2000 down in Scottsdale for the premiere of Close Encounters of the Kind. So I'm still doing work with him and part of the training staff there. And so he and I got to be pretty close, but we would talk, and I said, I had this visualization. He says, really? I said, yeah, I saw this major ET craft landing, and there were all kinds of people there. He says, well, I saw it too. Oh. And we couldn't get the date. And I thought it was going to be someplace like Four Corners, here in Colorado, because that's where that's the only place in the country where 4 states meet together.
Right.
So that would be like,
makes sense,
the anchoring point for the country, for the planet.
Yeah.
And he thought it would be like in White Sands or somewhere in that area, So it's in the general vicinity. And he saw it, and I saw it too, as like the moon landing. And all the media would be there,
right,
and heads of states or their representatives from all over the world would be there. And that would be the official landing to greet the high-level ET ambassador who would land in their craft. And we all saw it all happen.
Wow.
And don't know the timeline, but I was still alive, and so was he. So I think that time is coming. But first of all, we have to be able to face reality. and quit the lies. We got to hold our politicians to the truth.
Yeah.
And stop all the lying and the cover up and all the BS and all the tribalism and turning this guy against the other guy, you know, my team against your team. That whole concept has got to go, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not living in a sporting arena like gladiators inside of the, you know, like a Roman circus. The Romans feed them, give them a circus, and what was it? The circus where basically give them food and circus.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the quote.
Yeah. So it's, you know, give them a hot dog and a beer, you know, and let them watch the gladiators fight, you know, and that's what it's about, you know, and it's our team against their team, you know, that's what, but it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
We have a democratic constitutional government, you know, a democracy where we're all supposed to be one and all that. But this whole sides are right or left or conservative or liberal and all that bunch. I hate labels.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay in schools of thought, but I'm part of the Democritus school of thought. Democritus is the guy who came up with the atomic theory, basically. He was a Greek. And Pythagorean was the one that sort of got everything in the pyramid structure. So you got the Pythagoreans on one side and Pythagoras, and you got Democritus school of thought. It's a democracy. And one's authoritarian led, you know, as Rome was, and the other's the people led, like a democracy. So I think that's what we all need to do. We need to bring that idealism of the U.S. Constitution, which everybody's created equal, you know, and in concept. And we need to really expand on that.
Yeah.
And not to hoard or have one over the other guy.
Right.
And sort of open up to that reality and get to where we can really manifest to our higher states of beingness within consciousness. Be open to that. So I think we're there. We're close. There's thousands of CE5 teams around the world, and I've helped organize them. I've done 3 here in Colorado. There's only one that's really active now, I think. I helped organize one, trained a group in Norway, and they're in Sweden now. Some are Sweden, the Netherlands. And I helped set up the team down in New Zealand. And I did help them organize that team down there. Got a really great active team down in New Zealand. We've got good friends down there. So yeah, our intent is for the best that we can be that was taught by all the master teachers who have gone before us, you know, in religion and science, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the idea, that for Earth to be the best we can be, and we can be the best we can be.
Yeah.
And extend that idea of peace and harmony as wanting it to manifest and have that visualization for the planet. So Dr. Greer believes that if 1%, you know, if you look at, I forget what it was, something that was to manifest into a different, from one state into another state, that it was all disharmonized, flying apart.
Right.
When it really lined up and congealed and manifested.
Is that super radiance? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, he talks
super fluidity.
Yeah. It gets to that point where you get these covalent bonds together within the molecular structure, and we should see ourselves as trying to bond in that way.
I like that.
In yin-yang balance, you know, in harmonic balance. And Dr. Robert Johns, head of the Peer Lab group, if you know him, his group showed, I think it was in Princeton, people who are bonded together can manifest things, and found that male-female couples were really bonded in a strong, like a romantic bond.
Yeah.
So it goes up exponentially. So same sex or just casual acquaintances, you know, are pretty much at a level 1. And so it goes that when you bond together, the bonding increases exponentially. So I like to say that we're all here in a harmonic resonance in our concerto field of oscillation, that we're at a power of 3.
Yeah.
You get to that point in consciousness.
Yeah.
And so when you bond together with somebody else like that, so you have so it goes up exponentially. It's not 1 + 1 = 2.
Sure.
It's 1 to the 3rd power plus 1 to the 3rd power equals 2 to the 6th, 3 to the 9th, 4 to the 12th, and it goes up exponentially like that.
Yeah.
So you get to that point where our morphogenic field becomes in harmonic resonance.
Yeah.
And it propagates around the planet. And so that has a field effect within consciousness of all those around us. So once it gets to a critical mass, then it sublimes into beingness.
Wow.
By sublimation. So our state of beingness goes from as level 0 to a level 1.
Yeah.
And it'll happen in the blink of an eye.
It's crazy.
It's biblical.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what we need to do. So in that account, that it's showed that when 1% of the molecular structure within that superfluidity, when it gets into a resonant field and bond, that the whole thing just like that.
Yeah.
And so you need 1% in harmonic resonance. So that's about 80 million people for the whole planet. But it could be less. And we've got help from friends in high places that are in residence with us, you know.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what the ETs are here for. They're like midwifing us into a birthing where the Earth is born into a new state of beingness. So is it a new world order? It is in consciousness, but not in fascistic. It's not the Second Roman Empire taking over the whole planet, you know.
Some kind of 1984 type dystopian future.
You know, this is more of a, you have to look at it as entanglement with the whole universe.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to phase shift into resonance, into a cosmic consciousness level.
Yeah.
Into that universal singularity, into the one mind type of resonant field with the intent to be there. We don't have to be there totally, you know, but we have to have that intent and we have to project that intent. And that field can be, it lights up. You feel it lights up. ET picks it up. Their technology interfaces with consciousness.
Yeah.
They can pick it up and they home in on that. I'm here to tell you what happened to me. And when I take people out, we do C5 together, and ET craft comes in and it's confirmed, then it validates everybody's consciousness, their intent, and it manifests right in front of them. So there's no going back. There's no going back.
Yeah.
You can't go back.
Yeah.
Once you're there, you can't. Once the cat's out of the bag, you know, it's reality.
Yeah.
So once you know without a doubt that truth, then there's really no going back to that.
Yeah. So
that's where we're at. So we're going to have to do it soon. There's enough people, I think, can do that.
Yeah.
ET will know our intent, and they've committed to us. So we're actually seeing 5 ambassadors to all the other people. Mm-hmm. And I know this might sound strange, and some people might think I'm weird. My experiences that happened to me, you know, if it was me telling me, I wouldn't believe it. But because it happens to me, I have to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to face the truth and reality about ourselves, each other, the earth, and the universe, and the people in it. We have to know that truth about all of that and quit getting these defensive lies, you know, and stuff. And these, you know, being our team against your team and, you know, bringing out the guns and you're not coming into my land. You know, the Holy Land is the whole earth. Mm-hmm. It's not Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the whole planet. Mm-hmm. Because the earth is more than this one dome with the rock in the dome, you know? It's more than that. Mm-hmm. It's all of us together. Mm-hmm. We're all part of the creation of this creative life, this womb of life that's Earth's our mother. So that has to be the concept we have to get around and see the abundance. And these guys that got control of this tech, they know that truth.
Yeah.
And we're all in the same boat. Climate change is real. It's going to happen. There's going to be a polar shift. The wobble's going to increase when the ice pack melts and starting to, the wobble will increase. So you'll have seasonal variation is what the wobble's about. So we could have hot and cold, you know, there could be different oscillations of seasonal variation. So many ice caps run off the land masses on the polar ice caps. There's going to be a mass shift around the whole planet. Yeah. So that's going to increase the wobble. Mm. So that came out in 2009, NOAA report, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency reported climate change. It came out in 2007, but the right-wing Bush administrator changed all the scientific data to go into party line. So all the scientists that were collecting that data were outraged, over that. So it took another 2 years for them to recollect all that data again from Antarctica and the Amazon and around the whole planet. They had to recollect all that data for the new report, the right report that came out in 2009 and was published in the Denver Post. And that's how I knew what it was and heard about it. So they were warning about the wobble increase then, but they really didn't go into what happens if there's a wobble increase, what kind of inertial force vectors are going to be changed around the planet. Well, that energy force vectors, they're going to have to dissipate that energy for increasing the wobble. So where that's going to be dissipated out? Through the plate lines, through the tectonic plates. Yep. So there's going to be more volcanism, there's going to be more earthquakes and tsunamis, along with stronger hurricanes and tidal, tsunamis and tornadoes, droughts and all that. And you talk about migrants. You ain't saying nothing yet. Wait till the tropical areas start to turn into deserts, where those people are going to come in. They're going to be around the whole planet. There's going to be billions of people on the move. So what we really need to do is come to peace with ourselves and each other, make peace within ourselves, first of all, and to realize who we really are, our potential, and then see that in the other people that we're involved with, make peace with them, and then make peace with our planet that we live on, and then make peace with the extraterrestrials here that are waiting for us to be able to visualize our true potential, state of beingness, and intend on to get out of this destructive reductionist phase where we're destroying our planet. Yeah. And so it's going to come into the point where they're going to intervene. They're going to hoax. There's going to be this hoax thing going on, but the real guys are going to intervene. Yeah. And so the eschatologists, the ones that study the end of the earth, what they're trying to do is they're trying to fulfill prophecy. The Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims are all going to try to fulfill their prophecies for the Messiah, or for return of Christ Jesus, or for the 12th command. And but it might be the same guy, but they don't know it. It's not going to be Donald Trump. He might make a nice Nero if they want to reestablish the Roman Empire, which they think they have to do, but they don't need to. What they need to do is make peace with ourselves and welcome the hosts of heaven and learn from them. That's who's here. They're here. And they goes up from a level 1 to a level 10. And it's not just in technology or abilities to destroy, right? But really how to build, right? And get to a higher state of beingness and consciousness to be able to resonate with those beings on a higher level. And we're interfacing with those beings right now, level 1 up to level 10. But if you're not really in resonant harmony, what happens is the ones can interface, and it becomes a directional. Right. And the directional is kind of like a laser. Yeah. Or FM signal, right? So if you're out of phase, if you're too much right or left, it becomes a polarization field. So if your Polaroid glass window is a filter that's turned. So if you're too right or too left, all you see is the dark. It's filtered out. But if you're in line with the signal, you'll see it. Got it. You'll link into it. Yeah. It becomes directional. So that's what happens. So they'll do something on a scale that's demonstrative that everyone can see. Yeah. And those that want to cover it up and lie about it, they will. And if you're too afraid to look beyond, your square block that you live in, then you won't see it either. That's what happened in Hawaii. When Captain Cook sailed in there to the Hawaiians, to Pearl Harbor, they couldn't see him because they closed their eyes. Because when the king came by, if you fell in his shadow, you'd get your head knocked off. So what happened was that they were so conditioned that only their leaders could see it, their chiefs and their high priests. Wow. So when the high priests and the chiefs said they could see it, then they saw it. And they thought Captain Cook was Lano, their chief god. Wow. Because the symbol of Lano was 3 crosses with sort of like rags on it. So when they brought down the sails on the tall ships, they had 3 masts with sails on it, and it looked like the symbols of their religious symbol for Lano. Of course, if you want to look at it in Christian ways, you could say it was Jesus and the 3 guys on the cross with him, Yeah. So yeah, we're close to that point. And I think that Dr. Greer says it's going to have to happen within the next 3 years.
Wow.
We're on countdown now from last year.
Yeah.
If not, because the Cabal's got these scalar weapon systems that are able to target things that are flying around in the local neighborhood there and bringing them down, that they're not going to
let that happen. I think that means that we've got a couple years to get everybody in resonance here.
Well, the thing is, it's the fear factor you need to get around.
Right.
So you got to be in a less fear.
Well, I definitely really appreciate, all the words you shared. And I think people are getting there. I think they're getting past the fear and seeing the opportunity and the creation and the love that this can mean for us and for the future we build.
Well, it's got to be that.
It's got to.
And the other guys got to come on board. They got to quit lying.
Right.
And face reality, face the facts. Because we're all in the same boat.
Right.
We're all on this planet, Earth. Where are we going to go? On Mars? It's nothing living there anymore that we know about.
Right.
There got to be some ET bases there, like on the moon. But, we're not going to get to another Earth, especially if we're going to try to turn it into what we got here on this planet.
Right.
Are they going to allow that to go on to another planet and to spread out? No.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get on board with what we've been taught by the master teachers and manifest. We got to have the faith of that mustard seed.
Totally.
Tell the mountain to move and it'll move. You got to tell the planet to move and the planet will move.
Yeah.
And that's what's probably going to happen, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Ricky. I mean, that's I think a great way to end it. So thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I learned so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be here. There's a lot more going on. I can't do a whole the last 66 years, I can't really do it in a couple hours of experiences, but you got to get the gist of it. And you guys just come together, bond together, and look for the truth. Do the science. It's not a cult. It's not a religion. It's not our team against their team. You got to do the science.
Yeah.
And face the truth. And that's it.
Love it. Do the science and face the truth, baby.
Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. In this conversation, Ricky describes his decades-long involvement with the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or CSETI. A cornerstone of CSETI's work over the past 30 years has been teaching humans the close encounters of the fifth kind protocols, or CE5. CSETI was founded by Dr. Stephen Greer, who defined CE5 as a prototype hybrid project which has scientific research and diplomatic interspecies relations components. In this UFO event, it is humans who are initiating peaceful bilateral contact with the ETs through conscious, voluntary, and proactive cooperative communication. On Substack, I've included several pictures Ricky shared from various CE5s in which he's participated. He also mentioned a position paper written by Dr. Greer in 1995 titled Extraterrestrials and the New Cosmology. As humanity continues on the path to disclosure, it will become increasingly evident that we are not alone, and we never have been. That we live in a cosmos abundant in intelligent life, and a reality that operates far differently than the materialist, reductionist paradigm we've been taught. As such, I wanted to share Dr. Greer's paper in full in the hopes that it can provide guidance for humanity as we develop a new cosmology. Quote, "The universe is teeming with intelligent life. In fact, the universe itself is intelligent and alive. The multiplicity of life in the universe, while diverse, is essentially a singularity. Beyond division, it exists in the unitive state, a marvelous conscious oneness. All that there is exists in its true nature as pure, undifferentiated, eternal mind. And yet from the awareness of that which is relative, we find inner and outer, mind and body, good and evil, oneness and separation. Truth is often born from the contemplation of these paradoxes. Both perspectives are true, but are dependent on the level of awareness of the observer. As we ponder the universe in a new cosmology which accounts for the existence of advanced non-human life forms, the lesson of the paradox will visit us over and over again. But if we look intently with the eyes of oneness, perhaps the cosmos will offer up a few of its mysteries. Cosmological confusion. This term best describes what happens when 20th century humans are confronted with the existence of advanced extraterrestrial life forms. For not only are these beings not human, they possess technologies which are inherently mystifying to us. It is unlikely that a people capable of interstellar travel will be using microwave signals for communication or fossil or nuclear fuels for propulsion. Since a hologram or laser would appear magical to a human 200 years ago, a large measure of scientific and cosmological humility and patience will be needed for us to begin to understand these civilizations, their technology, and most importantly, the lessons on the nature of reality we may learn from them. Moreover, the coexistence of a nonlinear, non-local, and transcendental universe with the so-called physical universe must not only be factored into our understanding of cosmology in general, but of the manifestations of advanced extraterrestrial people in particular. Biological life forms, us and extraterrestrials, possess both mind and body. We each manifest a reality which is both physical and spiritual, linear and non-local, fixed in time and space, yet simultaneously transcendent. And what happens when science and technology find the point of communication between the hard physical and the unitive state of mind? It would be truly confounding to both the modern physicist and the modern philosopher or theologian. For such a quantum leap in the understanding of the universe would bring into close relation the separately held realms of science and spirituality, mind and matter, body and spirit. When you factor into these perplexing situations the existence of non-physical intelligent beings who, while not possessing a physical body, are nevertheless intelligent, sentient, and to a certain extent capable of interacting with biological humans and biological extraterrestrials. The tendency in the popular culture is to dismiss such beings as figments of one's imagination, to belong to a primitive belief system, or to lump all such beings, whether human, extraterrestrial, or purely non-biological, into a veritable smorgasbord of undifferentiated entities. It is obvious that the risk of profound cosmological confusion rises exponentially as the multiplicity of intelligent life forms is contemplated. A new cosmology is needed if we are to understand the universe around us. In the civilian UFO community, there is much confusion over the nature of the objects and life forms which are moving about in space in our space-time reality. On the one hand, we find indisputable physical manifestations such as crashed spacecraft, radar returns, verified photos and videotapes, metal samples, and flesh and blood biological extraterrestrial life forms. Yet on the other hand, we find multiple accounts of nonlinear manifestations of these same objects and beings: telepathic communication, lucid dreams, mind-matter interactions, remote viewing, bilocation, levitation, and others. No objective student of the extraterrestrial phenomenon can ignore these numerous and widespread manifestations. Yet our acceptance of these manifestations really requires that we rethink our entire understanding of reality. Some of the advanced technologies and capabilities of extraterrestrial civilizations, especially those interfacing with mind and thought, can appear in ways very similar to so-called astral or spirit beings. In fact, the manifestations can be so similar as to lead many to say that the originating beings are one and the same. Not true. Not all that glitters is gold, and similarity of manifestations does not equate to sameness of origin. Add to all of this the fact that certain adept humans can manifest abilities which are extremely similar to both extraterrestrial and astral beings. Finally, let us add one more factor into all of this. Covert military and paramilitary human groups which have developed both the technologies and innate mental abilities approximating those of both the extraterrestrial civilizations and the non-biological spirit beings. The universe is a big, complex place, but it need not be overly difficult to understand. Its comprehension is aided by first utilizing a few simple principles and concepts. This task recalls the ancient Sufi saying, "Knowledge is a single point, but the foolish have multiplied it." Core principles of the new cosmology. Linear, relative reality and non-local, non-linear reality both simultaneously exist as reality. Their perception and understanding is wholly dependent on the level of consciousness of the observer. Even physical matter has an aspect of its nature which is non-local, transcendent, and conscious. Conscious, intelligent biological life forms, whether on Earth or from some other planet, have physical realities as well as spiritual realities. Pure mind or unbounded consciousness is innate to all such life forms. It is the ultimate, highest common denominator which all life shares. Beings which do not have biological bodies, so-called astral or spirit beings, are also conscious, intelligent entities and as such can interact with other conscious life forms, both biological and otherwise. On rare occasions, they can even affect a physical manifestation. Once again, the highest common denominator linking these beings with other life forms is unbounded consciousness or non-local mind. The universe consists of both linear and nonlinear or transcendent aspects which, while seeming paradoxical, simultaneously exist at every point in time and space and non-time and space. From this standpoint, every point in time and space exists in every other point in time and space through the quality of non-locality. The concept of God or of a universal, all-knowing being is enhanced and magnified, not diminished, by the recognition of the vast multiplicity, infinite diversity, and limitless scope of life in the cosmos. So how does intelligent life in the universe actually manifest? While keeping the above concepts in mind, let's review the diversity of life and how we, our inner and outer senses, may perceive them. Categories of intelligent life forms. Biological types. Humans. Intelligent, higher life form existing initially in a biological body and native to Earth. Extraterrestrial life forms. Intelligent, higher life forms existing initially in a biological body and native to various planets other than Earth. Planetary life forms. Non-anthropomorphic intelligent beings identified with an entire planetary body, for example, the Earth as Gaia. Other planetary, solar, and galactic bodies are thought to be individual conscious organisms as well. Other biological life forms. On Earth, cetaceans are highly intelligent and yet non-human. Theoretically, other planets may possess corollaries. Biological manifestations/presentations. This listing describes how biological intelligent life forms may present or be perceived by both inner and outer senses. Physically, in physical body form with or without spacecraft. Technologically, via radio, TV, and advanced ET technology involving technological interface with mind and thought. Mentally, via telepathy, lucid dreams, or other direct mind interface. Astral body projection. The presentation of a human, ET, or other biological life form in its subtle, non-biological component, which may be perceived by another biological life form in waking or dream state. Causal or thought body presentation. The perception of another biological thought form in its most subtle individual aspect, the thought essence body, which may be projected without either biological or astral body components. Pure mind/one mind, the ultimate state of oneness. Any and every conscious life form is essential, non-local, pure unbounded mind, and may be so perceived. Types of experiences and abilities of biological life forms. Physical senses. Sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste. Physical capabilities. Movement/motion, etc., with and without technology. Mental abilities traditional. Thought, ideation, creativity, visualization, memory, sensory perception and recognition, others. Non-local mental abilities, non-traditional. These involve recognition and utilization of the non-local aspects of both mind and matter and include telepathy, the ability to send and or receive thought from one being to another. Precognition, the ability of any intelligent life form capable of being aware of awareness to access via non-local mind probable events of the future. Postcognition, the ability to perceive via non-local mind distant past events not personally experienced by the perceiver. Non-local mind can access past as well as future points in the time-space linear continuum. Remote viewing or remote sensing, here defined as the ability to see via non-local, unbounded mind, distant events in space, either in real time or in the past or future. Dream state abilities, the ability while in the dream state to experience precognitive dreams, postcognitive dreams, remote viewing, and lucid dreams. Celestial perception, the ability to perceive aspects of physico objects. Telekinesis, the ability to move an object through observable space via interface between subtle, non-local mind and a comparable aspect of an object. Teleportation, the ability to move or manifest an object a substantial distance via non-local mind and the non-local aspect of matter, which negates the linear aspect of space. Transmutation, non-technological, the ability to convert one material object to a different element or object using the subtle interface of mind and non-local matter. Bilocation, the ability to manifest a body or object in two or more points simultaneously in the time-space continuum. Example, appearing and perceiving in two or more places at the same time. Related ability by timing, the ability to appear in the same space in more than one point in time, so-called time travel. Materialization or dematerialization, non-technological. The ability of a life form to make manifest or unmanifest a material object while using mind-matter interface. Out-of-body experience / astral projection. The ability to project at will the subtle astral or light body to a point in time and space outside the biological body. Near-death experience. The transient separation of the subtle or astral body from the physical biological body due to bodily illness or injury. May involve perception of the so-called next world or subtle aspects of the cosmos, usually astral, but advanced perceptions may involve causal or pure thought realm, and many others. Note that all of the above abilities are innately possible in both human and extraterrestrial life forms. It's also important to remember that each of these abilities can be achieved through material technological augmentation of innate mental abilities or totally achieved by technological advances alone. Non-biological intelligent life forms. Adding to the complexity of the universe is the existence of realms, dimensions, and aspects of the cosmos which are entirely nonlinear and non-material as we currently define it, actually more vast and complex than the physical material universe. No cosmology can be complete without an attempt to initially assess its basic characteristics and manifestations. Because this aspect of the cosmos can interact with the physical one for both humans and extraterrestrials who live in biological bodies, it is important for us to consider it and account for how it may resemble and differ from the diverse manifestations of biological life forms as discussed above. Types of non-biological intelligent life forms: astral or light beings. Of Earth origin, that is deceased previously biological humans. Of non-Earth origin, either deceased ET biological life forms or those originating from the causal or astral realm. Causal or thought beings, existing primarily as thought bodies. Of Earth origin, deceased biological humans. Of non-Earth origin, previously biological ETs or which originated from the causal or astral realms. Note that non-biological beings of all the above types can appear to biological life forms in the waking state, in dreams, in meditative states, etc. Depending on the culture, degree of evolution, and degree of acceptance of non-material beings, these entities may be known by this partial list as ghosts or spirits, spirit guides or angels, archangels, ascended enlightened beings, avatars, prophets, Christ, Krishna, others, planetary nature spirits known as devas in Vedic and other traditions, animal spirits, and others too numerous to list. Types of experiences and abilities of non-biological life forms. Essentially everything listed under biological life forms and perhaps others such as materializations and poltergeist activity pertain to non-biological life forms, except that they interface less frequently with the world of matter since they exist in non-material realms. When analyzing the multitude of possible experiences humans can have, it is important to have a cosmological understanding broad enough to comprehend the diversity of the cosmos. Otherwise, we will be unable to distinguish an anomalous manifestation of extraterrestrial technology and an unusual astral or causal cosmos manifestation. Apples, oranges, and stardust. The preceding is simply an overview to bring us to our main focus here, the extraterrestrial presence. A universe filled with both biological and non-biological intelligent species presents a special challenge to anyone attempting to understand the extraterrestrial peoples currently visiting Earth due to the areas of phenomenological overlap between quite different types of beings. Would a hologram projection of a person not be interpreted by a 17th century human as a ghost? What of a simple flashlight? Absolute magic. For this reason, among others, a cosmological crisis dominates the ET/UFO question. This has been helped along by deliberate disinformation and psychological warfare programs of certain covert groups, but more on this later. The result has been a mixing of apples, oranges, and stardust, calling them all one thing. We are reminded of the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy, where a small plane drops a Coke bottle over a remote, primitive area in Africa, where it becomes an object of great mystery, conflict, supernatural meaning, and power to the indigenous people who find it. While the movie is a comedy, it contains an important, relevant message. Are we now behaving like the finders of the Coke bottle? For example, may observers of the ET/UFO phenomenon conclude that the extraterrestrial spacecraft are actually not at all physical or material because they can at times simply disappear? Magical? Interdimensional? Or extraterrestrial technology simply allows the craft to go from hover to beyond the speed of light in one instantaneous quantum acceleration? The neural pathways of the human eye are incapable of tracking an acceleration of this magnitude, and so the object seems to simply vanish. Three main factors contribute to this cosmological confusion. First, the innate nature of advanced extraterrestrial technology is so far advanced that it appears supernatural rather than just super technology. For this reason, in good old-fashioned scientific arrogance, even rigorous scientists are inclined to dismiss certain aspects of the extraterrestrial phenomenon out of hand or regard it as not real, supernatural, or superstitious. Consider the development of consciousness-assisted technology, CAT. For example, rather than using keystrokes to enter data on a computer, one might simply think the command. The computer has been pre-programmed to recognize and accept your thought signature. A number of witnesses have seen extraterrestrials doing just that on board a spacecraft. Impossible? Magic? Nonsense? Be careful. A very human scientist at UNLV named Dean Radin is working on a so-called psychic switch, which is precisely what is described above. How far along this path might advanced extraterrestrials be? The flip side is technology-assisted consciousness, TAC. Here, specialized machines assist the function of mind, thought, or consciousness. A basic example is the Monroe Institute's hemisync tones designed to assist the development of deep states of relaxation, expansion, and eventually heightened powers and abilities. A more advanced application, though bizarre to modern scientists, is the ET's ability to use certain technologies to communicate with each other and with humans telepathically. There are literally hundreds of cases from diverse and credible people worldwide describing this. In the case of extraterrestrial civilizations, the ability to communicate at speeds exceeding that of light becomes an essential technology. To quote the Moody Blues, thinking is the best way to travel. Why? Because it is instantaneous. So it should really come as no surprise that starfaring peoples would have developed thought communication rather than using radio waves. There are many cases of witnesses seeing a spacecraft who think something like, "Oh, I wish that thing would come back this way so I could get a better look." Suddenly the craft changes directions and comes right over to the person. The high accuracy of such two-way exchanges would indicate that these craft and their occupants have technology which indeed interfaces with their thoughts and those of other life forms. TAC may also be used by the extraterrestrials in teleportation, telekinesis, remote viewing, and even higher states of consciousness. Once the nexus between mind and matter and mind and space-time is clearly understood, the potential applications are almost limitless and boggle the imagination. The reason the question of advanced extraterrestrial technology is important to this discussion of cosmological confusion must be obvious by now. Very advanced technologies of extraterrestrial civilizations may appear similar or identical to other so-called paranormal phenomena. To discern one from the other requires insight, knowledge, patience, and above all, experience. For example, people with classic extraterrestrial abduction experiences who undergo hypnotic regression may subconsciously fill in details, especially to please a hypnotist with strong bias towards retrieving alleged memories of extraterrestrial abductions. So, is it real or is it Memorex? Great care must be taken when dealing with the human mind, or we will confuse those aspects of the new cosmology which have clear areas of overlap, such as non-biological intelligent life forms, humans, and extraterrestrials. A ufologist may jump to the false conclusion that the person who experiences a spirit or astral being almost as a hologram in the waking, dream, or meditative state has been visited by an extraterrestrial. But wait, a more holistic cosmology, as outlined above, would allow us to consider that it may have been a spirit guide, angel, another living human who project his or her astral body into the bedroom, a deceased relative, a hypnagogic hallucination, or a technological or mental projection of an extraterrestrial into the room. The point is this: if you don't know about or accept the diversity of possibilities, you are very likely to misinterpret the phenomenon. Similarly, many people experience a myriad of unusual phenomena, plural, but they will be considered as only one phenomena, single. This results in the mixing of apples, oranges, and stardust. Adopting and understanding a truly holistic cosmology will greatly assist us in avoiding this confusion. But even then, because there are areas of profound overlap where one phenomenon will mimic another, tremendous care and repeated, mature experience is required before clear discernment is possible. Otherwise, how will we differentiate between a spirit being an advanced mind-matter interaction affected by extraterrestrial technology, or for that matter, from human technology and experiences? And this brings us to the third contributing factor to cosmological confusion: human covert programs designed to confuse, mislead, and deceive society on the extraterrestrial question. It must be remembered that covert human attempts to back-engineer extraterrestrial technology have been going on for over 45 years, and more than a little headway has been made. Additionally, certain covert cells within military and intelligence agencies have been working on electronic and psychic techniques which are highly invasive, very specific, and operationally effective. These technologies are much farther along than most could imagine. The real capability exists to deliberately mimic an extraterrestrial technology and events for the purpose of disinformation. We have been briefed by trusted members of the military regarding non-lethal defense and related fields. They have confirmed to us that psychoelectronic technologies exist off the shelf, which can target an individual or group and remotely make them have a personal conversation with their personal God. And they would so believe it was real, they would pass a lie detector test. Conclusion: this is a wake-up call. The simple approach of taking an anomalous experience on face value is not only unscientific, it is immensely dangerous. Technologies do exist which can induce personal and collective experiences which appear ET or UFO related, but which are really quite human. Like past plutonium experiments on humans and germ warfare tests on civilians, these experiments are real, black budget activities which have been developed and perfected over the last 30 to 40 years. Electronic and implant technologies, all human, exist which can induce a very convincing abduction event. The clustering of abduction experiences around military installations and the presence of unmarked black electronic-filled helicopters near so-called abductees' homes is no coincidence. The public has been misled, and the civilian UFO research community have been quite victimized by these special projects designed to deceive, mislead, and above all, disinform the public on the extraterrestrial subject. The body snatchers fix on the extraterrestrial presence is driven by a complex plan to convince the public that there is an alien threat which we must all unite against and fight. Do not be deceived. The future of life on Earth and our emerging relationship with extraterrestrial civilizations may depend on our eyes being open. The relevance of covert human activities to cosmological confusion must not be underestimated. Human awareness on the subject of extraterrestrials has been manipulated, played like a harp, by those who would hide the real gold under a mountain of fool's gold. Events which look, feel, and sound like extraterrestrial ones may in fact be part of a deception of very human origins. And if we do not at least consider the role of covert disinformation programs in our list of cosmological options, then we will be doomed to misidentify and misinterpret many of these events. The human factor which adds to cosmological confusion is not limited by covert activities. There's the usual array of misperceptions, hallucinations, delusions, wannabes, false memory syndromes, hoaxes, scientific arrogance, and general human egotism. All of these contribute to a collective cosmological indigestion which is in dire need of a cure. And acknowledging the problem is the first step to healing. Extraterrestrial civilizations, humans, non-biological life forms. The cosmos is a complex, diverse, and fascinating place, or non-place. Ultimately, education and above all, experience will guide us on this journey. For if we are to set sail over this vast ocean, we are in need of a rudder, a compass, and a few journeys along the near shoreline first. We must join together to gather our knowledge and experience, and with courage and resolve, set sail first along the shoreline, then farther from shore, and then into the vast and limitless ocean of inner and outer space. For we are not at the end of time or of history, but rather we stand on the threshold of unbounded possibilities, a time when all that we may dream together will come to pass.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm feeling like I'm in my UFO, right? Like, I got all these unidentified feelings of oneness. Yeah.
I never fall, I float, learn the lesson and cope. Minds connected to growth, so seek sunlight. Thoughts be the reason that your sauce got no bite. So think different and season life with more spice. Feel the oneness of source and get lost in the love radiating from all with no pause. Holding us down in the storm like anchors. When it's calm, I'm revealing the path to Asgard. Let's go! To a place you can only reach through a meditative state where the vibes slow down so you can keep up with your pace. Try to take your time, but beat it like a case. I ain't saying it's a race, but think about your place in the space called life. Where the icing on the cake tastes like infinity. That's before it even bakes. If the victory is sweet, then I'm doing what it takes. Stop dealing with the fake.
With all these unidentified feelings of oneness, they show up deeply in my life. I'm feeling you love is my
been abducted by loving the oneness of universal consciousness. When I lift out of my body, all my thoughts exist in a realm where I can mold them, design and shift to bring it back to the present and use it. There's no illusion, we're rooted in all the math. It's the numbers that give us movement. Your life path is a clue. Do the math and I prove it, while the magic of your path unfolds before you in the music like a flower in bloom, forever like the sun and the moon. That be the only energy I consume. My vibrations in tune, infinity be the tune. You ain't affecting my mood, we bringing life to the room, and that's that. Call it this and get past that. Me and Melly Mella get you right on the fast track. Listen to the vision, strap it on like a backpack. Do the opposite, and what I'll tell you is that's lack.
With all these unidentified feelings of oneness, they show up deeply in my life. I'm telling you, love is my UFO. The reason I love is all these unidentified feelings of oneness.
When you're feeling the feelings of living, you can be honest for bringing all of the positive vibes into the space I was given to us, so we can survive, thrive, and be the ones written into the stones of the path, changing the future to winning. I'm finding the truth is revealing. You'll see the proof in the pudding when you commit to the feeling. I know what I'm feeling is real, cause all the dreams that I'm spinning to you are being fulfilled. Yeah.
With all these unidentified feelings of oneness, they show up deeply in my life. I'm telling you, love is my UFO. The reason I love is all these unidentified feelings of oneness.